across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Very good evening. It is the start of the week and there's another major political controversy that has emerged in the last hour. That is that Zack Polanski, the leader of the Green Party, has put something on Instagram which is really shocking. He's now taken it down. It's about Nigel Farage. It is a man advocating for Nigel Farage to be guillotined and killed. We have plans for Nigel Farage, is what the Instagram post said. The Green Party say they've now taken it down. It was an error, but nonetheless, Nigel Farage is seething, as you would imagine, especially in relation to the horrendous attacks and indeed threats to his life, to say nothing of the murder of Anne Widdecombe recently. Lots to discuss on that one. We'll also talk about social care. The NHS is going to collapse without reform to social care, says the Prime Minister. We'll talk about that. We'll also talk about the Berlin Pride attack, prompting calls for a clampdown because of the Islamist attack there. He is now dead, thank goodness. But of course, there are many worries in terms of what will happen. Also, youth sickness benefits. We speak to a young person about that. We'll talk about Labour doing better in the polls, the Burnham bounce, and the Hull funeral director gasps in court as details of the horror scene has been found at the funeral home have been relayed. We'll talk about that and the sad death of Bill Oddie, too, national treasure and well-known Springwatch presenter, to say nothing of the goodies and his comedy career as well. So much to discuss between now and 10 o'clock. If you want to get your voice on the air, get your opinion across, tell me what you think. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. You can text me 87222 with the word talk in your text. You can tweet me at talkTV, follow me at Peter Cardwell, send me a WhatsApp voice note on via WhatsApp. You can send me a WhatsApp text message on WhatsApp, or you can give me a ring 0344 499 1000. So much to discuss between now and 10. Stay with us here on Talk. Well, Nigel Farage's biographer will join us in a second on that astonishing and beyond ill-judged, sinister Instagram post by Zack Polanski. I'll read you out what the Green Party has said in a second. Andy Burnham has been interviewed by the BBC and he has said that he's ruling out a general election. Just as I thought he would, it must be said. This is what the Prime Minister said.
I've got the support of colleagues in Parliament, and it's a parliamentary democracy that we're in.
Rule it out?
Well, I'm going to rule it out. Yeah, there's no early general election. I don't think people want it.
That is Andy Burnham ruling out an election. He also says the NHS will collapse without social care reform. We'll talk about that in a minute.
I will go as quickly as I can on the reform
That's not the same.
of social care. Well, it's not, because a whole new system, which is what you asked, takes time. I think there are major changes you can make before the next election. This costs the NHS billions of pounds.
That is the Prime Minister speaking to Panorama on the BBC and Laura Koonsberg. We'll talk about social care, we'll talk about an early election, but I want to talk about something that's broken in the last hour. Let me just show you this on the screen if you're watching. If you're not, I'll describe it to you. It is a man in a black T-shirt, and on that T-shirt it says we are making plans for Nigel Farage, and it has been tweeted out by Zack Polanski on his personal Instagram. Sorry, not tweeted out, put out on Instagram. Now, we've contacted the Green Party about this. There's a massive political row on it, and Nigel Farage is up in arms. He's demanded an apology from Zack Polanski. He's also said that if he tweeted out or put something like that on social media, he would rightly be reported to the police. So it's a man in a sort of pride cap, a colourful rainbow cap, and he's got a guillotine, and he's talking about Nigel Farage. And in the context of Anne Widdecombe's murder and the many threats that Nigel Farage gets, this is something that is very concerning to him. It's very concerning to me as well. A Green Party spokesman said after attending a public event, Zack accepted a request to collaborate on a post with several images. Once this image was brought to his attention, he immediately unshared the post. He unequivocally does not support this type of dangerous message. Well, why did he put it on Instagram in the first place? Well, Michael Crick is a journalist and biographer of Nigel Farage. The book is called One Party After Another. Michael, good evening.
Good evening.
What do you make of this?
I think you're overreacting, Peter.
The leader of a political party, Michael,
No, I know what it is. I know what it
puts
is.
out, OK, why am I overreacting?
Well, in politics, people often use metaphors, refer to killing people off, or decapitation strategies. You remember in
with the guillotine?
No, hang on. Well, we don't actually have. I doubt whether there is a single guillotine in this country, right? If it had been a knife or a gun, I mean, it is ill. You're right. It's tasteless. I wouldn't have done it. I certainly wouldn't have retweeted it or anything like that. And it is ill-judged. But we don't have guillotines in this country. It isn't a picture of Nigel Farage in the guillotine. I think what refers to is we're going to kill you politically. I mean, maybe I've got it wrong, but I do think that sometimes we do overreact to these things. And I can see why Farage has seized on it. And it's interesting that I don't think he's referred this gentleman on the screen or referred this incident to the police. Maybe he has. But I think we ought to put this in perspective. And there are some terrible things that people do on social media. But I think in the circumstances, I mean, if it was France, for instance, where they do have the guillotine, or they used to until quite recently, it might be a different matter. And if it was a knife or a gun, it would be a different matter.
Michael, I think you're completely wrong in this, and I think you've completely misjudged this. I think in this atmosphere that we're in, where Nigel Farage is getting hundreds of death threats a week, and the leader of a major political party puts on his Instagram that someone is coming for him with an instrument that has been used to kill people politically, historically. I totally get the fact that, there aren't too many guillotines these days apart from in museums, but I mean, how do you think Nigel Farage is going to feel about that? How do you think other politicians are going to feel about that? I understand what you mean. I totally get, we say, decapitation.
I don't think that man in that picture actually intends to go and murder Nigel Farage.
But someone might see that from the leader of the Green Party. Someone might see that from the leader of the Green Party and be inspired by it in some way.
That's right. I doubt whether anybody's going to be inspired by this picture or Polanski retweeting. I think it's wrong of him to retweet it. I don't think images like that are nice. But in politics, there are frequent references, the metaphorical references to people being killed or, people being stabbed in the back.
Stabbed in the back.
All of those. And they are part of normal political discourse. They go beyond, they go over the top. I don't like it, but I think some of your language is in itself over the top, Peter.
Okay, well, I think we'll have to agree to disagree, and on my programme we disagree without being disagreeable, so that is where we will leave it on that. Are you surprised that Andy Burnham said he's going to rule out a general election?
No, of course not. He's got to say that. And indeed, he'd be a fool to have a general election right now because, I mean, Labour and Reform are around about the same level in the polls, in the mid-20s. I mean, anything could happen if you had a general election right now. And what does he mean by the word early anyway? And, we remember Theresa May ruled out having an election until she then did have one. And that was a huge mistake for her because she then lost her majority. And I think when there are so many Labour MPs who, about 2/3, probably getting on for 3/4 of Labour MPs must be wondering whether they're going to keep their seats at the next election. And what surprises me, actually, is how little. I mean, I think there is a poll out today, isn't there?
Yeah, 28%.
Labour ahead for the first time.
It's the Burnham bounce, really, isn't it? Talking about 28% in that poll.
The Burnham bounce has barely happened, really. I would have thought, given all Farage and Reform's problems, and it's not just Farage, it's most of them in the leadership of Reform have got problems right now, actually, you would have expected Labour to have a quite substantial lead in the polls now, now, given all the coverage that Burnham's had, how little scrutiny.
I mean, 28% and 4 points above Reform UK when Reform have been ahead in so many polls for such a long period of time. Some people might say that's fine.
That's one poll. That's one poll.
Yeah, and it needs to be a lot higher than that, doesn't it?
Yeah, there's one poll ahead, but there were several polls. There've been several polls since the Makerfield result where I think there were 3 where they were equal, but all the other polls, Reform have been ahead. So poll-wise, Reform are still doing astonishingly well, and Labour are still doing astonishingly badly. Round about 8 to 7 or 8% lower than what they got at the general election. So to go for a general election in the next year or two would be a foolish buy of Burnham. Lots of Labour MPs would lose their seats. Labour might get down to a smaller majority, but that would still mean that perhaps 100 Labour MPs, or not 100, maybe 50 Labour MPs lost their jobs. Who knows? But it's no, he's going to carry. He's going to. There's no reason for him to hold an election. Now, if Labour's position in the poll improves, maybe if they got a 10% lead, then it becomes another matter. Yeah. But it's risky, as Theresa May showed.
Well, indeed, she was 20 points ahead at one point, and then it all went. At the
start of the election in 2017.
Yeah.
The Conservative lead was 21%, and Labour got it down to 2.5% on polling day.
Goodness me, and that was that was a really astonishing a change of fortunes for Theresa May. Just on our viewers and listeners, I should say that we're having a slight technical problem with the WhatsApps at the moment, so we can't receive them just at the moment, which is a shame. So if you just use text for the next little while until our top technical people behind the scenes get the WhatsApps fixed, I'd appreciate if you text it in on 87222 rather than WhatsApp me. So that would be very, very much appreciated. Or you can tweet me at Peter Cardwell or at talkTV. Michael, perhaps I could talk as well about Burnham's plans for social care. I mean, this is major change he's talking about here. Social care, you're talking about, tens of billions of pounds worth of change needed. It's interesting that Ed Davey has said that they should talk about common ground, but similarly, you've got Kemi Badenoch saying, OK, let's talk, but it can't involve tax rises. I know that people are hurting. I know there's a cost of living crisis. I know that taxes are at their highest level as a proportion of GDP since the end of World War II. But if you want a social care service, the money's got to come from somewhere.
Well, and we were talking about the 2017 election, and you'll recall that a huge turning point in that election is when Theresa May came out with proposals
death tax
for social care funding, and it was denounced as a death tax or dementia tax, wasn't it?
Yes.
And both of those are phrases that have been hurled around. And Burnham, I think, knows he's not really going to get anywhere on this unless he can get consensus across the parties. Now, he might just get consensus across the traditional three, but I think it would be very difficult to get reform on board. And the trouble with all the alternative schemes, and they're very, very complicated, is that they're very, very costly as well. And, the bill is going up and up and up in terms of all sorts of different things that Andy Burnham wants to do. And, of course, you've got the huge defence black hole, which was really, really important right now. So it is one of his great ambitions, but whether he'll ever make much progress, it must be under huge doubt. And it's a personal thing for him because, of course, he way back when he was health secretary all those years ago at the end of the Brown government, he tried then and failed and couldn't get consensus. And yet the situation is dire for many families, and the situation for people in care homes is dire in many instances, and very low pay, very often understaffed, terrible conditions. And, this is something that is going to affect many of us, and we need to bring the country together somehow and work out a system whereby the burden is shared more equally, rather than people who just, have the misfortune, say, of getting dementia, which is a minority of us, but rising numbers. They end up with the huge bills, or their families do, and other people, their costs are relatively lower. Yeah,
I remember a very senior figure in NHS England, who I think you know too, Michael, actually, this was a few years ago, said to me that the NHS is on its knees, but the care system has fallen over. Just a quick word on Berlin Pride and the calls for a clampdown on what has happened there. Dreadful attack over the weekend by an Islamist. Yeah, and,
we're getting more and more of these attacks around Europe these days, it seems. And what can one say? It's just one hopes that the security services in each of these countries, and of course we in Britain have suffered attacks as well in the past, although not recently, fortunately. Maybe that's due to extra vigilance, or maybe it's just due to good luck that potential attacks have been thwarted before they happened. But it's awful.
OK. Michael, thank you for all your views this evening, even the ones I disagree with. Really appreciate you coming on the programme, as always. Michael Crick, who is the biographer of Nigel Farage. The book is called One Party After Another. He's a journalist and author. Jason in Market Harborough also disagrees with Michael Crick. Read The Room, you complete muppet, he says. Nigel Farage's close friend and colleague has been horrifically murdered. He has an endless supply of death threats, and the unfit leader of a rival political party shares a horrific post inciting the death of Nigel Farage. He hate breeds hate. Two-tier justice again says Len in North Wales, Polanski should be arrested for incitement for violence. He removed the post just as Lucy Connolly did, and she got months in prison, says Len in North Wales. And Don in Chelmsford, Michael Crick has lost the plot over the Farage guillotine post. I find his response bizarre, says Don in Chelmsford. I should say all of these are text messages coming in. We have a problem with the WhatsApps at the moment. We're trying to get it fixed, but the text is 87222 with the word talk in your text. We will certainly read out as many of those as we can, and hopefully we'll get the WhatsApps back ASAP. Let's go to Matt in Cheshire. Has some thoughts on the Polanski Instagram post. You're very welcome to the programme, Matt.
Hi, good evening, Peter.
Good evening.
First and foremost, Making Plans for Nigel is a song by XTC from the 80s. So the T-shirt is based on the title of a song from a band in the 80s.
Okay.
That has no relevance to it, but that they will probably use that as an excuse. As we didn't make this up ourselves, if you know what I mean.
I mean, if they simply said we're making plans for Nigel and it involved, you know, Zack Polanski becoming Prime Minister or whatever, nobody would bat an eyelid if that was, you know, the image on the T-shirt. The problem is it's a guillotine.
I've seen this sort of this wording and this phrase going around for a few months now. I think it's probably just arrived at the out-of-touch Zack Polanski's computer, where it's probably been in the homes of probably thousands of people for months on end. So this is the left revealed, Greens and the left of the Labour Party, pathetic, hateful, tough behind closed doors and gutless. He has the right to do it, but it exposes him as a sour, hateful baby. And with Anne Widdecombe's murder, it's a sick and low-life thing to put out there. And finally, the guy in the picture should be the butt of all the jokes. Regardless of what's been said, we should be laughing at the guy in the picture because he didn't look like he could knock the skin off a cappuccino.
I think he's definitely a latte drinker by the look of things. Let's face it.
Sorry,
yes, yes. Well, very happy to make him the butt of jokes for wearing that ludicrous and deeply offensive T-shirt. Matt, as always, you're always worth listening to. Really appreciate your thoughts. That's Matt in Cheshire. Give me a ring there on 0344 499 1000. Just a reminder for texts, please, on 87222. Having a problem with the WhatsApps at the moment. As soon as it's fixed, I will let you know. I also want to say a big hello to Daz and Daisy, who are very loyal viewers in North Shields in Newcastle, and Daz and Daisy are great people. I know Daisy's daughter Georgia, and she is a great person who I'm sure Daisy is incredibly proud of with all her many achievements in life. And Daz and Daisy, thank you for your loyalty. I really appreciate it, and I wish you all the very, very best. That is Daz and Daisy there in North Shields in Newcastle. We'll go to the debate desk in just a second. Joe Wheeler and Sean Hickey are standing by. Let me know your thoughts on all that we have talked about today. 0344 499 1000. Stay with us.
Fifth Prime Minister in 4 years. Blimey. And, well, look, we want him to succeed. But will this one be any different? Andy Burnham, the new head honcho. 1 minute he was Mayor of Greater Manchester. What, a month and a bit ago, he wasn't even an MP. The next, he's holding keys to number 10.
You know what? I'm trying so hard not to be cynical about it all, but I'm trying to keep, not hope. I'm sick of hearing about hope already. He's only been in government for 5 minutes, but I want them to succeed because I want Britain to succeed.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, the Metropolitan Police have tweeted at 2 minutes to 7. I don't know, and I can't say for absolutely certain that this is to do with the Polanski tweet, or Polanski, apologies, Instagram post, keep saying it. But Metropolitan Police have tweeted out earlier today, Monday the 27th of July, we received a third-party report relating to an image shared on social media. We take reports of this nature extremely seriously, and officers are conducting inquiries into the matter. This is Zack Polanski. Well, I think I'm on fairly strong ground, but I don't know for sure that. I'm just going to ask the top team behind the glass if we could ring the Metropolitan Police and just double check that that's what it relates to. But it wouldn't surprise me because Nigel Farage himself has tweeted about this. This is the Instagram post of Zack Polanski, the leader of the Green Party, and it is a picture of a man in a pride or a rainbow hat anyway, and then there is a guillotine, and it says we're making plans for Nigel Farage. So, or we're making plans for Nigel, which is an 80s hit, but that is certainly what Nigel Farage has sent out. He says this is what this is what Zack Polanski has just posted on his Instagram. If I was to post anything as insightful, then I would expect to be arrested, and so should Polanski. Well, his biographer, Farage's biographer, Michael Crick, said I was overreacting. It's interesting, I think, that a number of people agree with me rather than Michael, but we have a range of opinions on this station. Maybe we'll get some more in a second on the debate desk. One person says on Twitter, we've just had Anne Whitcomb murdered. Is this guy for real? Angela says your commentator is wrong. Someone was inspired to kill Anne Whitcomb and over the weekend to deface Leila Cunningham's front door and more death threats. I think Zack Polanski should be arrested as he's hiding behind free speech rules while inciting dangerous, untrue hate. Mr. Watchman says I'm absolutely astounded at Michael Crick's response to the alleged incitement to kill Nigel Farage, stating that a guillotine is a foreign and obsolete method of killing when Parliament actually uses the term for motions is so weak within his profession. L says I'm absolutely disgusted at Crick's response to this, overreacting, seriously, especially after reforms Anne Whitcomb was brutally murdered. Let's get the views on our debate desk. I'm delighted to say that Joe Wheeler is with us, a Swiss Army knife of commentators. You have so much to say about so many different issues that are around this evening. She's a broadcaster and meteorologist. We'll get her views on the funeral story because she's a licensed celebrant. We'll also get her views on the weather and all the politics as well. And Sean Hickey is here too, a versatile chap himself in many political issues. Yes, not a professional celebrant, it must be said. Although I trust you to marry me. And you get it right. You get it right. Get the tone right, or maybe do my funeral. Send me off.
Yeah, I'd give you a good send-off, I'd say.
Excellent, yeah, definitely, in Northern Ireland. Sean Hickey is the head of content at Politics. Joe, so is there a head of discontent? That's my question, or is that your minions when you tell them off?
A head of discontent?
You're the head of content, is there a head of discontent?
Oh, very good, very good.
Right, on a serious note, Joe, what do you make of this Nigel Farage, Zack Polanski furore?
Absolutely outrageous that anybody could post that anybody could wear that T-shirt and expect to walk around without being challenged. Again, if the whole murder of Anne Widdecombe hadn't happened, this would be bad enough. But the fact that is in such recent memory and so painful for an entire nation is absolutely disgusting. And yes, arrests should be made. People have been arrested for saying naughty, hurty words. Yeah, let alone suggesting that Nigel Farage faces the guillotine. Are
we overreacting to this? Nigel Farage's biographer, Michael Crick, the author and broadcaster, journalist, says that he thought I was overreacting to it, and actually this is just something people do. People talk about stabbing people in the back in politics.
And I can see where that would come from. Take it back 20, 30 years, and you could say that. You could say, do you know something? Well, think about some of the punk records and their lyrics. Yeah, you could say some fairly outrageous things. You obviously didn't intend to do them, but you could say them. Yeah. And the trouble is, today you can't. You absolutely can't. And people have been put in prison for it. They've been arrested for it. And there is this general idea of two-tier policing. You know, when it's against Nigel Farage, it's not a problem.
In fairness, the Metropolitan Police, we've just been in touch with them, top team behind the glass will be in touch, and they say, yes, this tweet does refer to this matter. They say earlier today, we received a third-party report relating to an image shared on social media. We take reports of this nature extremely seriously, and officers are conducting inquiries into the matter. They're sending us a longer statement. As soon as I have that in my hand or on my screen, I will read it out to you. What do you make of this, Sean?
It is just sloppy from the leader of the Green Party, isn't it? I mean, you're looking at, and I'm not going to get into the crick sphere of it, but the semantics of the post are that Polanski didn't post this. He was tagged in it, collaborator on the post, so he wasn't the one that took the photograph.
I've had it, I expect, well, you know far more about it than me, being, you know, young and relevant, but when someone asks you to collaborate on a post, you've got to make a decision there. And you would imagine the leader of a political party would look through things before he says, yes, I'm happy to collaborate on that.
This is the problem, I think, with, the issue that Zack Polanski's had for the last couple of months, and I'd say about a year now, is that the done thing with a lot of political actors, even outside of being the leader of a political party, is that they have somebody employed to do their social media for them. So this seems to be that a lot of the time the hot water that Polanski gets into is because he operates his own social media himself. You see a lot of times where there'll be a photograph, someone takes a screenshot of a tweet that they put out that Zack Polanski has liked, or an Instagram post that they have put out that Zack Polanski has liked.
But there's judgment as well. I mean, whether it's someone else doing it or whether it's you doing it yourself, you can make a judgment even if you are a busy person and do your social media, and you've got to stand over that stuff as well. I mean, the retweeting thing is interesting because, you know, retweets don't mean endorsement and all the rest of it. But if you're collaborating on something, you've got to be able to stand over that. In fairness to Zack Polanski, he has deleted it, and a Green Party spokesman said after attending a public event, Zack accepted a request to collaborate on a post with several images. Once this image was brought to his attention, he immediately unshared the post. He unequivocally does not support this type of dangerous message. And that's fair enough, but in that case, why collaborate on it and why stand over it even for a short time?
Well, precisely, yeah.
Well, but I mean, madness, you have to press that button, to say repost this. You can look at something and think, that's quite funny, but little risque, particularly if you're the leader of a political party.
And a successful political party, which has done very well. They've fallen back in the polls recently, but I mean, this is a guy who wants, in theory, if the Green Party do well, could become part of some coalition, could become a government minister. If he can't deal with this kind of important, but in the scheme of things, reasonably minor issue about an Instagram post, what hope is there that he can lead a country, lead a department?
Yeah, I mean, this is it. It's the sloppiness of it all, really. It does kind of... It does not bode well for the Green Party if their leader is not able to look at the third, fourth, fifth photograph.
But was it sloppy, or perhaps just part of a wider lack of sloppiness? Actually, his belief, many would argue.
No, I wouldn't.
He says it isn't. What do you think, Joe?
Well, I was going to say that, you know, was it Lucy Connolly?
Yes.
Yes. She also deleted, apologised, and said it was a rash moment. Didn't help her. She still ended up in jail. So why should it help him? You know, you've made that misjudgment in pressing that button, and certainly he was in a position of much greater responsibility than Lucy Connolly ever was. So why should he walk away?
Gerald says, can Michael Crick explain why Lucy Connolly was sent to jail with things Zack Polanski shouldn't be? It's a very similar point. Amanda in London says Zack Polanski should hang his head in shame. He's a disgrace to his party and the country and utterly disrespectful to the memory of Anne Widdecombe. We are with you, Nigel. Penny in Essex says, good evening, Peter. That isn't a threat to Nigel Farage politically, it's a death threat. Michael Crick is an idiot. Sorry, the police should arrest the cretin in the T-shirt. Why are these people getting away with it when 30-word people are arrested? It is ludicrous. Richard in Leicester says, typical Crick, surprised you have him on. He's BBC bias main man. I think, you know, Michael Crick is a long-standing, very good journalist, has written many biographies, well-respected, and his opinion is worth listening to, even if I disagree with that. And on my programme, we disagree without being disagreeable. I don't want to be one of those presenters that only has people on who they agree with. I just don't want to be that person. I want to have people on who I disagree with either sometimes or indeed all the time, and it is great to have Sean Hickey in the studio. Leslie in Hartley says, I think Michael Crick is so wrong. Whether he have guillotine guillotines or not is beyond the point. It's just one more sign of the way the world is becoming so hateful, even in a jokey way, especially when it's the leader of a political party. It's appalling. Lots more to come on this. And please remember, we are having a problem with WhatsApps. As soon as we get it fixed, I'll let you know. In the meantime, please text me, 87222 on text, and please put the word talk in your text. You can also give me a ring, get your voice on the air, 0344 499 1000.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, thank you to everybody who's been in touch, including Jim in Cambridge, who has texted me. Remember, text this evening at 7222 with the word talk in your text. Jim says, hi, Peter, Lucy Connolly got 31 months for a tweet and she took it down. Bet that Zack will get away with it. And also that Michael Crick wants to get in the real world, says Jim. Rach in Wales says, Peter, you're absolutely right. The post was appalling after the bludgeoning of Anne Widdecombe. If that post isn't classed as hate speech, what does? Lucy Connolly was arrested and locked up after Southport, accused of inciting violence. This continual condonement of vile hatred towards reform confirms what Zia said. It needs to stop. Politicians should stick to policies, not personal vitriol. Ray in Huntington says, why oh why do you have the author of the Nigel Farage biography in your show? He is so far off the mark with most things when it comes to your radio station. He is completely wrong about the Green Party host. They say it was a mistake. Either they knew about it and posted it anyway, or they do not proofread stuff before posting. Both are unacceptable. Len in North Wales says, Nigel Farage blamed by Labour MP for the Berlin attack. Ludicrous. That is something as well that we'll be talking about in a minute or two. If it was on the other way around, Farage would be on every paper tomorrow, says another person. Margaret in Birmingham says, good for Nigel Farage getting the police involved, and no way, Peter, were you over the top. Don't these people ever learn? Just a final word on this before we move on to other things, especially given what our viewers and listeners are texting in. Joe.
Well, I agree 100%. As I said, you know, Lucy Connolly put away for hurty words. This was outrageous. I do not understand what possessed Zack Polanski to actually retweet it. It was entirely wrong. It does come down to being a death threat. And, you know, after what happened to Anne Widdecombe, I think everybody is more than aware that at the moment, you know, you are vulnerable.
Yeah.
And
we do need to choose our words really carefully, don't we, Sean?
Yeah, but I'm not sure about the Lucy Connolly comparison.
Okay.
I mean, you're talking about someone who wrote the tweet themselves versus a political leader that has shared something.
She also
that's
pled
second
guilty.
or third. Exactly. You're talking about something that isn't actually what Zack Polanski has written himself. He's shared something and then deleted it after realising what's in the post.
It's interesting, just before we move on, and there are other things I want to talk about, but when it comes to what Sean says there, the law is very interesting in this because you are essentially a publisher if you're putting things on social media, and you've got to be able to stand over all those things. And that's something we all need to remember, Joe, isn't it?
Absolutely. The laws of libel apply. If you publish it, even if you didn't write it, doesn't matter. You have published and therefore you are responsible for it. But, I mean, as I say, if anybody had shared that, it was the wrong thing to do.
Yes.
The fact that this was the leader of a credible political party is outrageous.
Well, I don't know if it's credible, but that's a debate perhaps for another day.
I was being nice.
You're being nice, yes. Well,
you seem to think so.
You always are. You always are. Andy Burnham says the NHS will collapse without social care reforms. He's been speaking for the BBC and they have been following him. Let's just have a quick look at what the Prime Minister said about social care.
I will go as quickly as I can on the reform of social care. Well, it's not, because a whole new system, which is what you asked, takes time. I think there are major changes you can make before the next election. This cost the NHS billions of pounds.
So that is the Prime Minister Andy Burnham in an interview with the BBC. He says he'll go as quickly as he can on a whole new system for social care. Joe, what do you make of this and the need to reform social care? I don't think there are too many people saying that the system at the moment is working.
No, absolutely not. And social care certainly doesn't. I think many of us have had elderly parents who've needed state help, and obviously, first and foremost, any savings are taken off them, and eventually the fight is immense. That's all I can tell you, to actually try and get funding for social care. And I can understand that it is costing a fortune. Why particularly that's hitting the NHS, I'm not entirely sure. The NHS has problems of its own.
I suppose the issue is getting people out of the beds into social care scenarios as well, and that is, when the care isn't there, it's the sort of bed blocking of people who are well enough. They're not well, but they're well enough to leave hospital, but they don't have a social care plan in place. I'm sure you've come across it yourself, friends, family and so on, where they say the care plan has to be discussed. It's not there. Right, we can't even get a meeting for another 2 weeks.
Well, agreed,
and you're in a
but
situation where someone has to sit there in hospital,
That's trying to get people out.
Yeah.
But the trouble is they're going in because they can't get GP appointments.
Yeah.
And so the system
or decent
is...
social care.
Yeah, the system is stuck in the beginning. It's stuck at the other end, and then you get your bed blocking in the middle.
Yes.
So, yes, from that point of view, the NHS is being affected. But, yes, some kind of reform to the social care has to happen.
We have had reforms in Scotland. We have a totally different system in Northern Ireland, for example. What do you make of this, Sean, and what actually can be done? Because Ed Davey has said, let's talk about this, let's have a discussion about it, let's find areas of common ground. Andy Burnham, where Kemi Badenoch has said sort of similar things, but she says, if we're going to borrow more money or tax people more or take money from elsewhere, we can't do it. To which the question is, well, how are you going to fund it?
Well, I mean, outside of making cuts to the NHS, which I think, by and large, people don't want, much less Labour voters, there was one thing that I think Wes Streeting did as the Health Secretary that not many people gave him credit for at the time, and there was a lot of confusion over what it was, but the abolition of NHS England as a quango. And so there's a lot of, because of the behemoth that the NHS is, you're looking at a lot of smaller groups, a lot of regional groups that there is a question over, well, do these things actually need to exist? Can we make it more national? Can we make it more of a larger region operating in a place? That frees up a lot of expenditure. Now, whether you're going to have issues with the civil servants that would probably be unemployed after a situation like that is another question.
Or redeployed somewhere else, or moved up to number 10 North.
Well, it might be the case. It might be the case. And that goes on to my next point, is that whether someone like Andy Burnham would do something like that when he has been this great champion of devolution and number 10 North and moving things out of Westminster.
Yes.
I'm not sure that would be the solution he'd be going for.
We also have Burnham saying he'll crack down on youth sickness benefits. We're speaking to a young person who's affected by this a little bit later on in the programme. I mean, that is at least some intention, Joe, to get a grip on welfare.
And there are many areas to which one might point in terms of cutting the welfare bill. But, one has to wonder why on earth these youngsters are being paid this amount of money in the first place.
More money.
Anxiety, depression. Now, please don't get me wrong. I do not diminish mental health in any way, shape or form.
Of course.
However, a bit like, the comments about Zack Polanski and things that might have been said 20, 30 years ago. These kids need to get up. They need to go and take some exercise. They need to go and face the day. Yeah. Ooh. Intake of breath here.
Sean, what's going through your mind?
I don't know.
We have a situation where teenagers claiming sickness benefits for anxiety receive £100 a week more than those who take a part-time job on the minimum wage.
That's terrible.
Well, I think the question would be, why are young people feeling anxious? Why are young people feeling
depressed?
depressed?
Let's start with COVID. They had no face-to-face interaction since 2020.
Precisely.
Yeah.
So if you're a young person that was going to university in 2020, you didn't see a single one of your colleagues for the entirety of your education.
I had 2 children in university in 2020, and I know exactly the effect that it had.
There's also the aspect of the economy and the economic downturns post-COVID that have led to a lot less of a kind of a entry-level job market out there.
I agree with everything you say, and there are clearly a lot of people. I wrote a young friend, well, my friend's kid, that's the age I am now, a reference for a summer job recently, and she's really struggling to get something longer term, thinking about other study and all the rest of it. the question is why we're in a situation where people receiving sickness benefits for anxiety receive £100 a week more than those who take a part-time job on the minimum wage. I mean, the minimum wage is higher and has gone up, you know, at various points, but work should always pay, should it not, Sean?
Absolutely. And the problem that we have now is that work simply doesn't pay. We're in this doom loop spiral of this inflation crises, workplace crises. The job market isn't what it used to be for young people, and we're now facing a situation where there's so many young people. There's the NEETs situation that Pat McFadden has been fantastic on the last while. This is an issue that needs to be tackled rather than turning around and saying, well, are they getting too many benefits?
So should we praise Andy Burnham for at least talking about this, if not tackling it, Joe?
Talking about it, yes, absolutely, and it does need to be addressed, and it's one of those things that seems to have kind of come hurtling in from the side and gone straight underneath the carpet. We are looking at a situation where we're 80,000 jobs down on what we had before, something like that.
So I think we're in a situation, interestingly, where the two things we've just been talking about, both social care social care and this topic, are kind of linked, because if you move in any direction, it's going to be a vote loser. There are going to be lots of people who disagree with you and say extra cost or extra problems.
I was going to say, I am really sorry. There is no situation in which somebody who is working should have less money than somebody who is not.
Lots of people getting in touch about Zack Polanski. Alison in West Sussex says, great show, Peter. If Nigel had worn a t-shirt like that, there would be a major outburst from the other parties. I wish they would leave him alone. Nobody would do his job with the death threats unless they had a passion for their cause. Jackie says, anyone who isn't outraged by the social media post is morally bankrupt. Another texter says on the R text this evening, remember 87222 with the word talk, because we're having a problem with their WhatsApps. This person says, hi Peter, I think Polanski or whoever in the Greens knew exactly what they were doing by putting that post out so they could have been seen by as many people as possible for deleting and pretending it was a mistake. Just to say, the Metropolitan Police have reacted to this. They've sent us their statement, which is word for word exactly the same as the tweet, but I'm very happy to read that out to you again, which is earlier today, Monday the 27th of July, we received a third-party report relating to an image shared on social media. We take reports of this nature extremely seriously, and officers are conducting inquiries into the matter, and they've confirmed to us that they are looking at that. Lots to discuss in the next bit on the debate desk with Joe and with Sean. Albanian drug dealer will not be deported because his daughter wets the bed. Is he taking the pee on that one? Labour have overtaken Reform in the latest polling, and the Hull funeral director gasps in court as the details of the horror scene found at a funeral home relayed. We'll be speaking to a registered celebrant about that after the break. Stay with us.
Fifth Prime Minister in 4 years. Blimey. And, well, look, we want him to succeed. But will this one be any different? Andy Burnham, the new head honcho. 1 minute he was Mayor of Greater Manchester. What, a month and a bit ago, he wasn't even an MP. The next, he's holding keys to number 10.
You know what? I'm trying so hard not to be cynical about it all, but I'm trying to keep, not hope. I'm sick of hearing about hope already. He's only been in government for 5 minutes, but I want them to succeed because I want Britain to succeed.
We're not supposed
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Alex in Cardiff says, just after an elderly woman has been murdered with 21 hammer blows to the head, is it really that sensible to publish photos like that? Whether Labour, Conservative or Reform people need to understand the political climate is very hot. It's just dangerous. I pray no more politicians are murdered because I think they're trying to do their best for their constituents, no matter what their party, says Alex in Cardiff. Barbara in London says, Crick says any threat against Farage is... I don't quite agree with what you're saying, Barbara, there. I think it might be legally contentious, but I appreciate your... let me read out the second part of what you're saying. If the T-shirt said Burnham instead of Farage, Claude would be sentencing the wearer out, searching the wearer out as soon as we speak. Graham says you're spot on about that post by Zack Polanski. The chap who was talking to you is an idiot, says Graham. I don't think Michael Crick's an idiot, by the way. I respect his opinion, even though I think he's wrong. Amanda says, I'm shocked at Michael Crick's analysis of the threat to Nigel Farage with a disgusting T-shirt. How naive and ignorant of a man with all his experience. He should know better. And one more, Cardi P, if the government are going to fine people for not voting, will they fine MPs for not voting in Parliament too? Let's talk about this briefly, actually. Perhaps I can mildly ambush you with this one, Joe Wheeler and Sean Hickey. There is a suggestion that some of Burnham's senior people have been in think tanks previously where they say voting should be mandatory or alternatively a £10 fine if you don't vote. I wonder what your hot take on that is, Sean.
It's silly. It's silly.
Silly?
I mean, there's countries like, I think Switzerland has a similar thing.
Australia
where there is,
as well. Australia can be $100.
I mean, are you really going to have the capacity of the police and or the civil service to be able to track down every single person that doesn't vote? I think the last election was, what, 40% turnout?
I'm not sure. I think it's a bit higher than that. But yes, nonetheless, it is a big thing. I mean, I think people should just be encouraged to vote, really, as much as possible. It is your democratic right. What do you think about, just finally before I go to Joe, what do you think about a box that says none of the above?
That's an interesting one. I think it would be... There's two ways with it, isn't there? It's... The voter turnout is already kind of the representative of that. Mm-hmm. If you motivate people to go into a polling booth to write an X somewhere rather than draw something obscene on the ballot paper, I think they'd always draw something obscene. On the obscene aspect, there is a great story about this, because all it says, now most people do an X, unless it's proportional representation 1, 2, 3, most people do an X, but all it says is that you must express a preference. Right? Mm-hmm. So I promise you this got through. There were 4 candidates. There was a word beginning with C that I'm not going to repeat, but it's got 4 letters. And there were 4 candidates. And candidate number 1, they wrote C word. Candidate number 2, C word. No, candidate number 3, C word. Candidate number 4, not a C word. And that is expressing a preference. And the deputy returning officer put it through because that was a preference for the person who was not a C word.
No,
there we are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Joe, what do you think about compulsory voting?
I think that's a really bad idea for a number of reasons. It pushes somebody into a, oh, I'll go that way, oh, I'll go that way, instead of actually having some formed thought before they turned up.
If you had to express a preference, maybe you might think a bit more about it, would you? Or would you just go in and say
but
whoever?
Thinking a bit more about it doesn't make you any more informed.
I think it does. No?
No, not really.
OK, all right.
No, I don't think somebody who's being forced into a decision feels the need to go out and discover. I genuinely don't. Okay. The people I know who don't vote and don't want to turn up, they just don't want to know about it.
Well, it's interesting. I was having a discussion with my father's mystery female companion. I'm not allowed to mention her on air. She doesn't like being talked about on air, so I call her my father's mystery female companion, to whom he's been married for 54 years.
She's that your mother?
Yes. And she said at the weekend, she said, oh, well, you know, political opinions, you know much more than I do, and you know your opinion's worth more than mine. And I said, well, it's not, because our votes are worth exactly the same. Mm-hmm. So you know you can be really interested in politics like me, but it doesn't matter. I mean, our vote is exactly the same.
And you know, the other thing is, you know, if you start talking about letting 16-year-olds have the vote, and then you're pushing them to vote, well, you're pretty sure about which way that's going to go.
I'd raise the voting age to about 21. Maybe 25,
really,
actually.
No, I think it's really quite simple. It would be nice, but anyway, the point at which you are earning money and paying tax, that's when you get the right to vote.
It certainly engages you in political issues, but then you can say, you know, home ownership is something that a lot of 20, 30-year-olds, sometimes 40-year-olds don't have a stake in, and of course that was the arbitration point previously. Lots to discuss on that. Do you think voting should be mandatory? Let me know your thoughts. 0344 499 1000 or text me. WhatsApp's not working this evening. Text me on 87222. Be sure to put the word talk in your text. I don't know what happens if you don't put the word talk in your text. Maybe it goes somewhere else. I don't know, Talk Sport get it or something. I'm not sure. Virgin Radio, who knows? Now, let's talk, Joe, you know a lot about this. This is the Hull funeral director sentencing. The reason you know about this, not just because you know a lot about the news, but also you are a licensed celebrant. You know the processes and the procedure when it comes to funerals, and the sentencing is happening at the moment. They're hearing all the details of the horror scene found at this Hull funeral home. It's dreadful.
It is obviously one that's outside of my remit. It's not far away from where I live, but it's
yeah,
not.
You've never interacted with this guy.
I've never interacted with this. And you look at this situation, you think, how on earth could this happen? Interestingly, the funeral directors that I do work for, many of them are women, which I guess would probably come as a surprise, but maybe not in this day and age. And I can say, hand on heart, that they treat everybody that comes into the funeral home with the respect that it deserves. I mean, extreme.
Yes.
And those bodies are available for viewing, for visiting, for as long as you want, and that the paperwork is tight as. So when we go along to do a cremation at the crematorium, you know, the paperwork is all matched up, you know, with the body and everything else. These appear to have happened, these bodies going awry, with what are called non-attended cremations. That means the family do not turn up at the crematorium.
Okay.
And therefore, whatever body turns up, as long as the paperwork is right for that body, there the chain of communication ends, because you end up with a bag of ashes, which you could call anything and give to anybody.
Yes, and there's no way to retrospectively trace that. You can't do a DNA test on ashes and things like that.
No,
okay.
absolutely.
So that's bizarre. So there are direct cremations, aren't there, where people there is no funeral service. They are just cremated.
And the family are not invited. That they can't actually be there.
So when you have the elaborate nature of this, you're talking about dozens of bodies. You're talking about ashes being mixed up. You're talking about people being given the wrong information. You're talking about money to charity donations going missing. That would have taken a lot of organisation, wouldn't it? That would have taken a lot of fraud.
Well, it takes a lot less organisation to mix them all up. This guy was just stacking bodies, cremating a few, and then distributing some ashes.
Yeah.
We're talking about it, you know, within the crematorium itself, in the back where the cremators are. It is as clean as you will ever find anywhere, you know, and all the ashes are swept out of the machines and given back to the right person. There's nothing of anything that's ever mixed up.
Yes.
You know, certainly not in the places that I've worked.
Of course.
It is as pure and as pure as it can be.
So what does this make you think? Because you're someone who's working very hard with a lot of very professional people to get it right and to do the right thing. I mean, this is not going to fill people with a lot of confidence about that industry.
Well, no, unfortunately it is one rogue one, and one of the people who've appeared in court has said, you know, we went to see our father, he got a personalised coffin, I think they'd actually written on it, and found him in basically a cardboard coffin, which is not how they expected to see him, and was absolutely shocking. The common theme with all these people is that they were all vulnerable at the time. When you've lost somebody, you know, you are grieving, and for somebody to say that they're taking that body and they're going to look after it, and then they don't, and worse for some of these people, long after they've been given the ashes back or been told the cremation took place, they're actually finding the body still there.
Yeah, it's horrific, Sean, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there's something, I wonder if it's a case of this is like a budget cremation thing, that there's a larger reflection here of just how expensive it is to bury your loved ones. You know?
Well, there were certainly people who were attracted to this. I mean, people have talked about being attracted to this because they didn't have a lot of money. And actually, there was, I was actually involved with it a bit in government. There are a lot of people who had what were used to be called paupers' funerals, and there was some government money that we were involved with getting so people could have some form of decent burial, because it is just horrendous. But the detail in this story particularly is hopefully a total one-off, because it's so horrific.
Yeah, I mean, you could spend hours looking through what was talked about in court today. It's just disgusting, frankly. The kind of the carelessness that people's loved ones are being treated with in their last moments.
Absolutely.
I think he was just out to make money, and he saw the potential in that loophole that these non-attended cremations, and so as you say, a pauper's funeral is when the council will pay for that, but the family cannot be there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then these direct funerals have become more popular because they are cheaper.
Yes.
And when all's said and done, do you need to be there? As long as you get the ashes back, have a memorial.
Yeah.
You know, have a ceremony some other time. Go and do it in a lovely field somewhere. You know, whatever it may be. But you do believe that if you're doing that, you are the body will be cremated and that you will get the ashes back.
Yeah. We'll talk a little bit later on in the programme about the dreadful attack by the Islamists in Berlin against the Pride March there. There's so much detail about this. Senior German politicians calling for strict penalties and intelligence reform. Following the attack, the known Islamist radical has been shot dead. And just a dreadful attack. We've seen this time and time again where people use a car as a weapon to go into these different public gatherings as well. Sean, what do you make of this?
Yeah, it's not what you want to be looking at on a Sunday morning or a Monday morning, is it? It's Pride is meant to be a celebration. It's meant to be a moment of, obviously, pride for the people that are in the city. And to see, what was it, 16 people injured and 1 dead from this.
I think it was maybe a few more than that injured, but I think, yeah, those numbers are certainly around that anyway. It is just a horrendous attack, and yet another Islamist attack as well, Joe, against our Western way of life.
Absolutely, and he was known to be as an Islamic radical, and Islam and pride probably don't mix very well, you know, and they knew that. The trouble is, how much information did they have on other people? It could have been one of a number. I mean, obviously tragic where it's happened, but not a great surprise either.
It's interesting, I was actually just on the train on the way here, I saw a woman wearing a headscarf who was clearly very much into her relationship with her girlfriend, and I just thought I hadn't seen that before. It didn't bother me in the slightest. Why would it? It was quite a nice thing to see, actually, and I just thought, you know, there are obviously members of the Islamic faith who are fine with that, and there are others who absolutely are not, including those who are Islamists. Let's just talk...
Same with Christianity as well, though.
Very true, very true. Yeah. No, very true. Let's talk briefly about the Albanian drug dealer who will not be deported because his daughter wet the bed. What is going on here, apart from obviously bedwetting? Bedwetting liberals.
It's not funny.
What do you make of this, Joe?
It's not funny.
Why won't he be deported? Is this chicken nuggets 2.0?
Yes, I was just going to say, this is chicken nuggets all over again.
Wouldn't she wet the bed in Albania and England? I mean, I just don't really understand this.
Well, apparently, he told an immigration hearing in 2025 that the girl needed therapeutic intervention due to her accidents. I
mean, most kids at some stage wet the bed. I did it myself.
But what age is she? You know, I mean, we don't know this.
Oh, right, OK.
We're not told how old she is. I mean, if she's 5, I think, sorry, you kind of got to expect... Yes, 100%.
One would hope so.
But anyway, what's it got to do with him? Yes, and this makes me so frustrated with these kind of human rights sob stories. It's like, I don't care whether your daughter wets the bed or not. Take her back to wherever you're going, yeah, and deal with it there.
Sean, I don't want to say bedwetting liberal, but what's your view of this?
Well, I mean, in the story it says that he came to the UK age 14, so I'd wonder if there is another aspect to it that he's probably just a British citizen.
It's maybe part of it. What they often say is the chicken nuggets, you know, that's not the only reason, it's one of the reasons, but I think people will certainly be making all sorts of excuses when they want to stay here. We'll talk more about that a little bit later on. For the meantime, Sean Hickey and Joe Wheeler, thank you both very much indeed for taking part in the debate desk. We'll see you next week, I hope. Thank you to everybody who has got in touch. Hi, Peter. I thought 16 and 17-year-olds were supposed to still be in education. Besides, aren't they still the parents' responsibility to pay for them until they're 18? It should be the case, but isn't always. Margaret in Birmingham says, let's talk about the main attraction of Downing Street. Axel looks lovely, but at least Larry has number 10 and 11 all to himself. Yes, I agree. I revealed on Friday evening, I've got, I think, 770,000 views of this tweet, that Axel the dog is not coming to Downing Street. He is staying in Manchester. So finally, we know the true reason for number 10 North. Lots more to discuss in the next hour. Stay with us here on Talk.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Thank you to everybody who's been in touch, particularly about the Zack Polanski story, this Instagram post about Nigel Farage, where there's a man in a T-shirt who says that they are coming for Nigel Farage. There is a picture of a guillotine there. The police are investigating that. We'll talk as well about the collapse of social care, and the NHS would collapse, according to the Prime Minister, if it is not reformed. We'll talk about Andy Burnham ruling out a general election. We'll also talk about youth sickness benefit. A clampdown is looming. That's something the Prime Minister has talked about as well. Loads to discuss between now and 10 o'clock. Whatever you want to say, however you want to say it, please do get in touch. You can text me 87222 with the word talk in your text. Sadly, WhatsApps are not working this evening. We won't have voice notes, annoyingly, but we're hoping to get it fixed as soon as possible. As soon as it's fixed, I will let you know. There are people working on it right now. But for the meantime, please text me 87222 with the word talk in your text. You can ring me, of course, as well. Get your voice on the air. We'll take calls this hour. 0344 499 1000. You can also tweet me at talkTV or follow me at Peter Cardwell. Lots of people getting in touch about that, particularly the Polanski issue. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about everything else. And please do get in touch. 0344 499 1000 for calls. 87222 for text, and put the word talk in your text. And one text, I should say, has come from Penny in Essex. She says, "Good evening, Peter. I thought having to look at Starmer and listen to the lies coming out of his mouth was bad enough, but Burnham is worse. The usual lies, but oh my goodness, the smug expression and the look at me is worse. The man is mad. You cannot have half of 10 Downing Street up north. You can't change centuries of political history, but plus how much is the private plane weekly going to cost the taxpayer? It's ludicrous. As I said previously, Burnham will make Starmer look as if he was extremely competent. The UK is doomed," says Penny. Loads more to discuss. Stay with us here on Talk. And Steve has been in touch on Twitter and he says, Polanski never posted it. He was tagged in it. More fake news from the far right. First of all, Nigel Farage isn't far right. Second of all, we aren't far right. And thirdly, Zack Polanski made a decision. He collaborated on this post on Instagram. It would only have been linked to his account had he made a decision himself. And that is what happened. Lots of people really unhappy about it. Lenny in Ashford says, I believe Zack Polanski does not live in reality. He's losing more voters than the BBC is losing listeners, so the future is not looking good. And the Metropolitan Police are investigating that post. We will bring you any developments on that as we get them throughout the evening. So please do stay with us. I want to talk a little bit now about a major story the Prime Minister is talking about. It's front page of the Times newspaper today and many other news outlets as well. Teen anxiety, paying more than a job. Young people who take up part-time work on a minimum wage earning £100 less than those claiming sickness benefits. So this is more than 87,000 16 and 17-year-olds are claiming the personal independence payment, PIP, the non-means tested benefit intended to cover the extra cost of disability. More than two-thirds of those in the upper tier, £194 a week, are claiming for mental health and neurodevelopmental conditions such as anxiety, depression, autism and ADHD. A 16-year-old working 12 hours a week, the legal maximum during term time on the under 18 minimum wage takes home about £94. The same teenager signed off with anxiety can receive more than double the hourly equivalent while staying at home. Well, we wanted to speak to a young person about this. Mariam is 17 and lives in Nottinghamshire. Mariam, you're very welcome to the programme. How are you doing?
I'm all right, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. You have experience of this because you know, obviously, a number of people who are in your situation. You're 17 and you're dealing with everything that being 17 is. You also have a sibling who is dealing with these issues. Just talk us through that.
Yeah, well, I'd say these payments are quite vital. To hear that they could be reduced or whatever the Prime Minister is intending on doing is quite disheartening for me. My brother struggles with ADHD, ASD, and going to school is a struggle, not only in classrooms, but with students, communicating with them. Even though these same students may have slightly less problems than him, but still do have ADHD, they still pick on him and everything, which just shows how much the education system is not protecting these students. And maybe that's where Andy Burnham should start, with the education system rather than cutting the money.
But you also know people who are abusing this system, don't you?
Yes. So a peer of mine, we went to school together. She left about probably year 10, and it was due to anxiety reasons. I don't see an issue with her anxiety. She used to walk around school jolly, just like me, talkative, and all of a sudden she left. And through words, people said that she earned a lot of money just to sit at home and enjoy her free time, basically.
When you are looking at this system, when you look at what's happening with your brother, when you look at what's happening with this woman and others as well, who are perhaps not being entirely honest with things, and you see, you know, older people and people paying taxes, working hard, can you see how they will at least question, actually, does your brother deserve the money he gets? Does this other woman, for other reasons, deserve the money that she gets? Can you see that there is obviously a big debate to be had here, especially as you're thinking about what's next, you know, leaving college and maybe going to university or going into the workplace? There's a debate to be had. What do you think should happen?
Well, I think I'm a taxpayer myself. I think that we should start with the education system. Obviously, I can't speak much about the adults and the grown-ups that are claiming for this money, the young adults, but the students that I can talk about, they need to be more guided in schools. They need more of a clarification, especially with anxiety. A lot of students go through exam stress, and I think that's where the confusion begins. I think people confuse anxiety with stress, and now that society is so modernised to it and so used to it, doctors that prescribe these mental illnesses are getting confused as well.
Yeah. So you're a taxpayer. Do you have a part-time job?
Yes, I do. I work in a fast food place.
Okay, and if you don't mind me asking, how much money do you earn, or how many hours do you do, and roughly how much do you earn? How much do you take home?
Currently, I do about 40 hours a week due to some holidays. I couldn't tell you how much I earn now. I'm on about £10, almost £11, I'd say.
Okay. So when you're in college then, when you're in education yourself at the moment as well, how many hours a week would you work there?
Just about 12.
About 12, yeah.
10.
So when you see that, let's take your brother out of the equation for the meantime, because clearly there are issues there that he needs help with, but you know, this other woman who you were in year 10 with, for example, when you're thinking, hold on a second, I'm working hard here, getting people their fast food that they want, you know, putting a shift in, and you're taking home less money than she is for sitting down doing not very much, how does that make you feel?
Obviously, it's frustrating. I have stated that this system does need to be changed, starting with the education, starting with that support that people need. It's obviously not nice to see. I do go to work. I pay. I'm quite fair, I'd say. But yeah, if we take my brother out of the equation, then yeah.
Do you get free milkshakes? That's what I want to know.
I do actually.
Oh, brilliant! Excellent, excellent. Well, next time I'm up in Nottinghamshire, maybe you could sort something out or some sort of meal deal. That would be wonderful. Mariam, thank you. Really, really good to talk to you, and thanks for being so honest and straightforward with us today. That's Mariam, who is a 17-year-old who in Nottinghamshire. Let's speak to Dr. Lisa McKenzie, who's a social academic and author. I know, Lisa, you're from roughly the same area as Mariam.
Yes,
you've worked with a lot of young people in the area, Sutton and Ashfield and Nottinghamshire and so on. Do you see this over and over again?
I do, and can I just say to Mariam not to worry, because she's doing the right thing. You know, her friend, the person that she knows who's getting PIP currently and not working, it doesn't help them in the long run. And I can tell you that now, because what happens is their mental health problems become exacerbated and worse. The anxiety gets worse. Longer you're not in the world with the rest of us, you get more scared of it. So, you know, Mariam should not worry. She's doing the right thing, and she's going to be fine.
But this is often the problem, Lisa, isn't it? Because I was chatting to a woman yesterday. She works in a shop. She worked in a squash club for a number of years. She worked in has worked in the shop for the last 20 years. She works really hard. She gets up every day. She grafts. I was in her house. She has Northern Ireland. She has an absolutely immaculate house. She's someone who is a real grafter, a real worker, someone who's a member of Alarm Clock Britain. And she is in a street that has changed an awful lot in the last few years through social change, through immigration, all the rest of it. And she said, I respect the people in my street who work. I don't respect the people who sit at home and do nothing. There are people, of course, who are disabled and need help, and I'm not getting at them at all. I'm not demonising those people in the slightest. But there are a lot of people who really do get quite a lot of money for not doing very much, and that is a real source of frustration to a lot of people, like the woman I was speaking to, get up every morning, go to work.
It absolutely is. I mean, you know, I hear this time and time again. There are people who have got disabilities and struggle and do need help to get to work. Because remember, PIP is a benefit that you can claim when you are working as well. It's not means tested. So, but what we have got, and I think this has come from COVID, what happened from COVID, and it's still happening now, I know this, is when you've been unemployed for a year or so, what you do is you go into the job centre and they do suggest perhaps you move on and move over to disability. And I know that's happening. And I think, you know, that's where Andy Burnham really needs to get to grips with this, is what is he doing about jobs? Because I'm very suspicious about, you know, can we get these, I don't know, I think there's sort of 6 million people actually who's economically inactive, that probably could be. Can we get these people jobs, and how are we going to do that? And actually,
and it's interesting, the Prime Minister is saying, Burnham said the government will help more young people into work by changing the education system and giving them more support and building more council homes. Is this a job for the government, or is it the economy that needs help? Is it the young people themselves? Because I'll tell you what I see. I see people like Mariam. I see people like the young woman I wrote a reference for, who's my friend's kid. That's how old I am these days, writing references for 20-year-olds. And she, you know, she wants to work. She's doing a summer job. She's working really hard at that. But she just doesn't know what's going to happen in September. She's got a good degree from a good university. It's in a non-vocational topic. It's in history. She's a very, very good historian. But she's thinking, you know, what do I do now? I've got all this debt. I've got a bit of work experience. You know, what do I do now?
Yep, and that's where actually I do think the state does need to get involved, because we've got hundreds of thousands of graduates leaving university every year, and they're all in the same position. What do we do now? You know, I'm going to say, you know, some of the employment agencies that are online, they are not helping at all. They're actually a really nasty industry where they're advertising jobs that don't really exist in order to get people to download CVs. You know, as a test, I went on one of these employment agencies, and I was looking at particular jobs, decent jobs that looked good, like librarians, etc. I mapped those jobs. They were on that site for 2 years. So clearly they don't exist. So this is happening as well. So on top of, you know, young people not knowing how to get a job, where to get a job, you know, perhaps confidence is getting in the way. Also the difficulty as well, because let's remember that in some parts of the country, here in Nottinghamshire, I was with a group of young people a few weeks ago. I was asking them about, you know, what they wanted. All they wanted was jobs, and they kept talking about it all the time, even to the point where they said to me, I don't even mind if they lower the hourly rate.
Yes, you just want to do something.
Yeah, I just want a chance.
We often don't hear from those people, which I think is really important. We heard from Mariam as well. I think, you know, those processes that you talk about, there's so many people who apply for jobs, then they don't even get something back. They don't even get a rejection. You know, sometimes they say, if you don't hear from us by a certain date, please, you know, assume that you haven't got through. But then people go for interviews and they don't get, you know, HR don't come back to them, and it just brings back the thing that I've always...
Peter, have you seen these AI interviews?
Oh, I dread to think. I haven't. Tell me.
Yeah, so what's happening now, my son had one. So it's basically, it's an interview that you just speak to you speak to, it's like Zoom, but nobody's there. No one's actually there. And what happens is like a prompt comes up and you have to read your response. And it's AI. And they're being...
I just think that's horrendous. I just think that's horrendous.
And this is what I'm saying. The jobs market out there is awful.
Yeah.
I don't know what is wrong with job centres and people who work in job centres.
Yeah. Well,
What's wrong with that?
I've always believed that the vast majority of people who work in HR have a sliver of ice in their heart, quite frankly. But thank you very much for your thoughts, Lisa. Much appreciated. Dr. Lisa McKenzie, who's a social academic and author. We also heard from Mariam earlier on, who's a 17-year-old from Nottinghamshire. I thought she spoke very, very well indeed. Dawn says, as a public sector insider, I can tell you that doing things as quickly as we can, working really hard, more complex than it appeared, are standard responses to issues. Terry and Slough says, I'm 77, and in my opinion, this is the worst bunch of politicians, both Labour and Tories, I've seen in my lifetime, and I've seen some terrible ones. I wouldn't trust this Labour government to run a car boot sale, never mind this great country of ours. Just a reminder, WhatsApp's not working this evening, so please just text me if you can, 87222 with the word talk in your text. You can also tweet me at talkTV, follow me at Peter Cardwell. I'll pick those up in the break and read out as many questions and comments as I can. We'll go to the phones in just a minute, so please do give me a shout, whatever your view, whether it is on Zack Polanski and what he's put on Instagram, whether it's on the NHS and care, whether it's on young people and benefits, whatever you want to talk about this evening, whether it's about a funeral story, whatever you want to say, whatever's on the tip of your tongue, you give me a shout and we'll have a chat together. 0344 499 1000.
To flip our fifth Prime Minister in 4 years. Blimey. And, well, look, we want him to succeed. But will this one be any different? Andy Burnham, the new head honcho. 1 minute he was Mayor of Greater Manchester. What, a month and a bit ago, he wasn't even an MP. The next, he's holding keys to number 10.
You know what? I'm trying so hard not to be cynical about it all, but I'm trying to keep, not hope. I'm sick of hearing about hope already. He's only been in government for 5 minutes, but I want them to succeed because I want Britain to succeed.
We're not supposed to flip and flop with every spirit of the age, every woke ideology or every passing fad and trend that comes about. We are supposed to be called out and separate, and the scriptures upon which the foundations and the continuing faith is based is a blueprint for that formation and the continuation of the church as a living entity in society. We are supposed to be
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Right then, let's go to the phones. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. I should say, just a little reminder, WhatsApp's not working this evening. Unfortunately, we're getting to the bottom of that. We will fix it. But if you do want to send me a message, do so on Twitter. You can tweet me at Peter Cardwell, or you can also send me a text message. 87222 with the word talk in your text. Let's go to Caroline in London. Some reaction to the Polanski Instagram post. Let's just get it on the screen again for people who are watching. This is what Zack Polanski collaborated on, put on his Instagram. This is a man in a t-shirt with a guillotine referencing Nigel Farage, and we're making plans for Nigel, he says. And Zack Polanski has put that out on his Instagram. Now it's taken off and there is a police investigation from the Metropolitan Police. Caroline, your thoughts?
Hi, Peter. I will look forward to my calls with you. Thank you for taking my call.
Well, you're very welcome to the programme again. Yeah.
Okay, so I've got 2 points, one about Farage and one about about Burnham.
Okay.
So with Farage, I cannot believe is it Michael Crick?
Yes.
Unbelievable. I mean, Anne Whitcomb was murdered. An MP, you know, we've got God knows what's going on in this country. How can he possibly say that? I'm absolutely outraged. Polanski should be arrested, and that guy wearing the T-shirt should be arrested. And yet you had Lucy Connolly going in for what, 18 months? It's beyond ridiculous, Peter. We're so angry with that.
I was surprised at Michael Crick's thoughts on this. He's entitled to his opinion, as are you, Caroline. But I just find it a bit strange. I mean, we're in a situation where you've got, if this idiot wants to wear that T-shirt, I don't think he should. I don't think it's a nice thing. I don't think it is a good idea. If he wants to put it all over his social media, that's bad enough. But you have the leader of a political party, quite a popular political party, the Green Party, who is not exercising any judgment in this, talking about the death of another political leader.
Absolutely. Look, like I've said previously, Peter, to me, the most dangerous people in this country right now are the left. They really are. They're just off the scale dangerous. But I wanted to also talk to you about Burnham, if I may.
Sure, go ahead.
So it's really interesting. Before last night, I went out with friends, and we ended up talking about Burnham's office in Manchester.
Yes.
How it's all ready. They've got all the literature or everything. It's like a brand new office with all the relevant stuff. And how did he do that so
well,
quickly?
there's lots online about, you know, different things that have been decided even before he became MP for Makerfield. Or clearly, you know, it was ready to go. So there was some planning anyway.
Well, this is our point. And then I saw the post that Susan Hall posted from GLC.
Seen that, yeah.
With all the dates. So he basically took this building, and before the by-election, how did he know he was going to win the by-election? So where I'm coming from, this is just my point of view, Peter, I think this was planned well over 6 months ago. I think Starmer knew. I think Angela Rayner knew she was coming back. I think we are living in a very sinister country.
Well, I don't think Starmer would have voluntarily given up that power, but certainly we know from Louise Haigh, who's the most powerful woman in the country. She is the first Secretary of State, Burnham's number 2, and she said that this plot to get rid of Starmer was there for a year. So, I mean, all this planning was in the works.
Yeah, but how did he know he was going to win the election?
Well, I maybe he was planning in case he did, I suppose.
Well, that's a bit of a big risk. I just find it very frightening. And the other point I want to make, I am shocked at the British, the masses in this country, that I said to friends before the by-election, I guarantee you he's going to win. And what he's going to do, he's good looking, he talks completely differently to Starmer, he's like a normal person. He's going to give us little sweet little things, and people are going to say, oh, isn't he great? He's so much better than Starmer. We really believe him. I'm telling you, Peter, I mean, the things he's offered are an insult to us, and they're laughing. They are laughing all the way to wherever they are. They are laughing at us. They're taking the total mickey out of us. And if there's a general election, I think he will call one this year. That's my gut feeling. And there's a possibility they could win. And that's when it will be game over for the UK.
Well, he has ruled out an early election, but I suppose he has to do that anyway. Caroline, listen, really interesting points there. Thank you for them. Let's go to Laura Jane in Hampshire, who has some thoughts about Zack Polanski as well. Laura Jane, you're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
Peter.
Hi there.
I've reported this to the anti-terrorist hotline.
Oh, the Instagram post? Okay.
They couldn't have been nicer, and the lady could not have been. I was actually quite nervous about doing something like that, but I felt so strongly after I heard Michael Crick reacting the way he did. As you know, I'm a Reform member, and we have a WhatsApp group sort of countrywide for helping Canvas and such like. And we were being, you know, we needed to report it, and I thought, not sure. But actually, they were so nice at the anti-terrorist, and they said that many people have been ringing up reporting it, so I felt encouraged.
Interesting.
And I feel that, you know, sometimes we have to stand up and be counted, because this sort of this kind of thing is just disgraceful. And I think that Zack Polanski doesn't show himself in a good light if he can't even double check what he's reposting. I think that's just an excuse, because I think he realised that he was in haste. Repent at your leisure. But honestly, it doesn't show him as a particularly intelligent young man if he's the head of a party and does that sort of thing.
I had a very good boss years ago, just when Twitter was kind of starting, although this was on Instagram, but social media kind of just starting. It was boss of the BBC, actually, still there, very good guy. And he said, if you wouldn't broadcast it on air, don't put it on Twitter or don't put it on social media. And I think that was very, very good advice, which I've been really careful about. And like, I am, you know, 0.001% of a public figure in comparison to Nigel Farage. I'm not nearly as big a following. I'm a very, very different person and all the rest of it. But I do have a tiny bit of a following online, and people who are very nice and loyal, and some people who are horrible. And that's fine, and that's the way things are. But you've got to be really, really careful about what you put online. You've got to be able to stand over it. You've got to be able to remember that in 5 years' time, it's going to be there. And I do think that Zack Polanski needs to at least be more careful in what he does. Laura Jane.
When social media started, my children were in their mid-teens, and I said pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
I said to both of them, I said, whatever you put there, you have to be able to, that you're affecting somebody else's life.
Well, having spoken to you on a number of occasions, Laura Jane, it comes as absolutely no shock whatsoever that you're a very good parent. So thank you for your call this evening. I appreciate it. That's Laura Jane in Hampshire. Let's speak to Kevin in Basingstoke. Kevin, what's your perspective on this? You're very welcome to the programme.
Yeah, hi. I'll have to be quick because I've only got a couple of minutes, haven't I? I mean, that T-shirt, I mean, Nigel Farage and the rest of the MPs in that party, presenters on this station and people that call in are constantly going on about saying, oh, we can't say what we want anymore, you know, hurty words, and, oh, it's so woke, we need freedom of speech. And then that man, that T-shirt is a joke.
There's a difference, though, isn't there, Kevin?
With a colourful hat on his head.
Yeah.
So no making plans. That is obviously a joke.
It's not obviously a joke at all. There's nothing obvious about it. Kevin, the fact is that there is free speech, but there's free speech within the law, isn't there?
Yeah, well, that is I would be very surprised if that was breaking the law. I mean, just because somebody has made a complaint, and you know the police have questioned him, doesn't mean that he's going to be found guilty.
No, I'm not saying that for a second. The police may say, right, nothing to see here. They may make that distinction. They may make that decision. The Crown Prosecution Service may not even get to them. The fact is, though, that similar things have landed people in prison, and similarly, we have. I mean, okay, let's take the legal aspect out of it, Kevin. What about the judgment aspect for Zack Polanski as a leader of a political party, an increasingly popular political party, although it's taken a bit of a hit recently? Do you think his judgment was correct in putting that out on his social media?
Well, wasn't there loads of? I mean, I've only know what I've heard you say about, but weren't there loads of pictures and he just said yes? I mean, did he look at them all?
Yes, but surely he should have looked at them all, especially when there was a picture of someone who was talking about Nigel Farage and a guillotine just, you know, days after the death of Anne Whittaker.
Yeah, but look. I know this is a whataboutery, but I mean, Donald Trump put a video out with the Obamas dressed as gorillas.
Okay, Donald Trump isn't Nigel Farage.
I know.
And Nigel Farage hasn't put a video out about. I mean, I wouldn't characterise every single person. I wouldn't characterise. Okay, Kevin, hold on. I wouldn't characterise every single person on the left as the same, and you can't characterise everybody on the right as the same.
No, but I mean, people were saying that defending Lucy, saying, "Oh, she only put out tweets." She had an online history of saying some really distasteful things.
Doesn't matter. I mean, she said a lot of things. The tweet that she was jailed for, I would.
What she actually said, she said that she called for mass deportations and said she didn't care if people burned down asylum hotels, and if that makes me racist, then I am.
For all she cared.
Okay,
yeah, well, listen, I think we're slightly comparing apples with oranges here, but nonetheless, I brought it up, so that's fine. The point is, though, that there's free speech and there's free speech within the law. That's the legal point. The taste point and the responsibility point is a different issue, especially when it comes to the death of, well, anybody, but particularly prominent figures. So you've got a leader of a political party. If Nigel Farage had put that out about Zack Polanski and said, hey, isn't this hilarious? Someone saying that Zack Polanski should be guillotined to death, the left would go mad, and you know they would, Kevin.
Well, what I would say, Nigel Farage is crafty. He knows there's a fine line, and he just goes up to that line and says things like, oh, people are saying, I'm just asking questions.
Does Zack Polanski know what the line is?
No, but Nigel's made a career out of it. I mean, he's even had riots named after him.
Okay, well, that's not his fault. The point is, with Zack Polanski, does he know the line? Has he got the right judgment in this? Do you think he should apologise to Nigel Farage?
Do you think people are going to riot because of that T-shirt? I mean,
no, I don't think they are. But my question is, Kevin, do you think Zack Polanski should apologise for putting that out?
Well, if he knew, or I mean, maybe he should. Yeah, perhaps.
Okay,
but, I mean,
all right.
But do you just think that's a joke? I mean, if you think,
I don't. I think it's a real. Do you know what I think? Do you know what I think? I think Zack Polanski is quite stupid. I think he surrounds himself with a lot of really dodgy characters. There are a lot of Islamists, there are a lot of people who really hate gay people, who really hate Jewish people, who really hate the Western way of life, who have gone into the Green Party, and I think he is just not a particularly smart guy. That's what I think.
Well, I think Nigel Farage is a dreadful man. Absolutely. I mean,
and that's fair enough, Kevin. Listen, thanks for your call. I really appreciate that. Loads to discuss on this, whatever you think. 0344 499 1000. We'll talk about this horrendous story about the Hull funeral director in just a second. Stay with us.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, thank you to everybody who has been in touch. And just a reminder that it's texts this evening only, which are 87222 with the word talk in your text, because WhatsApp isn't working, which is very annoying. And I'll look at more. There's a short break, but I'll look at pressing engagements with the top team behind the glass. But I will certainly look at more tweets in the next break and read them out. Now then, let's talk about Robert Bush. He was shocked. We were shocked and disgusted, say, funeral directors who informed the police. There is so much to talk about this. Gasps in court as, and there are distressing details in this, just to warn you, as the horror scene at Bush's funeral home was described. He looked at the floor as distraught family spoke about what had gone on. He had seemed empathetic and pleasant, but actually just some of the detail about what this 67 different charges, 30 charges of preventing lawful burial, flat-back coffins, DIY flowers, unpaid bills. The police called and said they had found my baby's body, said one person. Just absolutely dreadful. A granddaughter robbed of the chance to say goodbye. We trusted Bush. He told us barefaced lies. I need him to explain what he did to my mum, says Lynn Jeffries. She learned about the police investigation from the news. After weeks spent chasing him for her mother's ashes, she had organised Joan Stark's funeral with Bush following her death in 2023. Her calls were never answered. And then she said, as everything unravelled and all the information was given to me, the psychological impact hit. I'd put all my trust in a man who I thought would look after my mum. He had stolen my dignity. The acts this man has committed are unforgivable. I need Robert Bush to explain what he did to my mum and why he did it, what is going through his mind. I just can't comprehend what he has done. Russell Kane is a broadcaster and professional celebrant. Russell, you must be absolutely horrified at this case and all the detail that is continuing to come out. The judge has said that Robert Bush can expect a custodial sentence. We'll know what that is in a day or two. Just give me your reaction to this.
It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. I was aware of this case some time ago because when you're in a particular industry and somebody breaks every rule, every trust that you put with a funeral director, it is shocking. It's absolutely unforgivable. There is no way that it's excusable. I don't know what the heck was going through this guy's mind. I was staggered, absolutely staggered, because I deal with funeral directors all the time. I did a funeral this afternoon, and they are, and I have no, just to be clear, Peter, I've got no skin in the game. I don't represent them. I'm totally independent freelance, yeah? So they are the most dedicated people that I've met in many industries, including all my years in advertising and broadcasting. They are dedicated. They treat the families with respect. They treat the deceased with respect.
So what do you think was going through Robert Bush's mind when all of this happened? Because we're hearing a lot about cutting corners. We're hearing, I mean, it's far more than cutting corners. But we're hearing a lot about people who were promised, look, I can do this cheaper. This is an expensive time when someone dies. Funerals are expensive. There's no doubt about that. You're talking thousands of pounds if you want to do what is seen to be a traditional funeral. So he was offering a sort of cut price deals here.
Well, this is just nonsense, isn't it? I don't mean you're talking nonsense.
Sure.
I mean, what he was offering is absolute BS because you can't cut corners. There are certain things that you cannot cut. So he was just lying. That's the first thing. Basically, he was just absolutely lying through his teeth. What was going through his mind, I have no idea. I don't know if there is I'm not going to play the mental health card because it makes me sick. I
expect he will at some point.
Oh, yeah. You know the defence is it's going to say, oh, well, this, that. I mean, that's your first get out of jail free card that you're going to pull out the pack, isn't it? But what he did goes against absolutely everything that funeral directors stand for, that they train for, and most importantly, Peter, that they believe in. But, you know, there's none of this joking around. People might think, oh, when the client's not there, I bet there's all joking and that. No. The most utmost respect. So this is just despicable. And I feel so sorry and angry on behalf of those families. What they must be going through is shocking. Because what I don't understand here, Peter, is there are so many checks and balances when somebody passes away to make sure you get the right ashes are returned to you, that the right person is in the right place. So many checks and balances here. It's quite extraordinary that this slipped through the net. And the worst thing is I just hope it does not, it's one lousy apple in a barrel of beautiful apples of people who really do care. That's the shocking part about it. Those poor families. Awful.
I mean, there will presumably be some sort of wider inquiry into this as well after the court case to see the way that things are. What do you say, or what do funeral directors say to, I know you're not a funeral director, but you're a celebrant, but when it comes to saying to people, look, I'm afraid you just don't have the money or you don't have the financial wherewithal to have the funeral you want. I mean, are there compromises that are made there? Are there people who there are different options now? There are probably more options now than there have been previously.
There are options. All I would say, and I've got to be very careful because I don't want to cross the line with the people who advertise all the time, which are, a lot of them are huge American companies, they're huge corporations, all right? Remember one thing. We are in, as the funeral director said to me, and this is a conversation we have a lot, we are in the funeral business, we are not in the removal business. And, all of these very tempting deals, please, all I will say is please go in to the fine points, go through it with a fine tooth comb.
And I agree with you, but that's very difficult when it's the most vulnerable time of your life, and clearly, or one of the most vulnerable times of your life, and clearly Robert Bush saw a lot of these people coming. He thought, right, these are people who I can rest assured, everything's fine, all's well, I'll sort you out, I'll do what needs to be done. But some of the stories, I mean, one woman a father moved from a personalised wooden coffin into a cardboard substitute. There's something that a number of people now do where some of the ashes are blown into glass, and that is something a lot of people do. I'm sure you've come across it yourself.
Yeah.
People wear jewellery, they maybe have a very special pendant or a vase or something. But the problem was, in one of these cases, the body was recovered from 113 days after this woman died, Hilda Rhodes, known as Mary to her loved ones, and actually the jewellery that the people had been wearing were not her ashes, for example. How could someone do something so horrific?
It is not just criminal. It is not just callous, but it goes against every sort of moral compass that you would have, let alone as a funeral director. I feel very passionate about this. How the heck he thought he was going to get away with this? I think it's like one of those awful things, like, one of those American movies where, the situation gets worse and worse, and you suddenly think, I'm going to need a JCB to dig myself out of here, and it's too late.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've got nowhere to go. I'm past I'm past fail-safe, as they used to say, past the point of no return. Yeah. That's all I could think was happening.
Well, we will see what his sentence is in a few weeks or a few days' time. We've certainly seen quite a number of bits of evidence and just really heart-wrenching statements. Russell, thank you. Appreciate that. That's Russell Kane. There's a broadcaster and professional celebrant himself. Like our earlier guest, Joe Wheeler, he is a celebrant. And either one of them would be a wonderful person for those sort of send-offs. But just some of the details regarding Robert Bush, who's just an absolute scumbag. I mean, Jade Monroe, the daughter of Tony Monroe, died at 65 in November 2023. Robert Bush persuaded Jade's family to choose legacy for his funeral service by emphasising how they could have as much time as they wanted with him. The funeral took place 2 weeks after Tony's death, with the cremation service to follow. But Jade contacted Humberside Police after seeing information about the investigation into legacy into his firm. Several months after being given ashes she was told were her father's, Tony's body was recovered from Robert Bush's funeral home in March 2024. So she'd been given ashes, but they were of someone else. Absolutely awful. Bush filled her family with faith and promises to take care of Tony. Jade says she has now lost faith in the whole funeral process after Bush's crimes were unearthed. It's so expensive to pay for a funeral, she said. It is clear that such a lucrative business should have checks and balances. It does have some, but clearly not enough. A government spokeswoman said, we are determined to root out all rogue operators from the funeral sector and ensure that every person in every setting is treated with respect and dignity in death. Lots of people getting in touch. Sadia Salim in Market Harbour says, how will the government enforce the £10 fine? This is for people who don't vote. This is just a proposal at the moment. Send out threatening letters, taking people to court. There's always a genuine reason why people can't make it to polling stations. Medical staff needing to do extra shift, unplanned travel or sickness, or people who just don't want to vote. There are lots of people who say just don't have faith in the democratic process. I would love everybody to vote, but I'd love everybody to vote through a sense of duty and the fact that, when it comes to women in particular, people died for you to have the right to vote. Stephen Millings in Belfast, great to hear from you, Stephen, hope you're well. Not a fan of AI, but I wouldn't mind a trial of it replacing the Prime Minister. How bad could it be? David London says on Zack Polanski, the world is just full of useful idiots. I'm just astounded that one has reached the dizzy heights of leader of a political party. Guy says, a very good friend of mine who was high up within the unions once told me, whatever you write, however you write it, be prepared for the world to read it. Phil in Portsmouth says, the first thing is I'm a Reform voter. I've seen the T-shirt, but I missed where the name Farage is mentioned. It's not, but it is a reference to Nigel Farage. Has it been, or are we jumping to conclusions? I hate myself for thinking that, freedom of speech and all that, says Phil in Portsmouth. And Alex says, it's just not okay whether we like a person or not to endanger their lives. I was saddened by Joe Cox. I was saddened by Sir David Amos, and extremely saddened about Anne Widdecombe because of her age. Politicians need to remember their words or pictures published, need to understand responsibility, because many nutcases can get ideas. Politicians need to be careful, says Alex. We'll talk more about that later and in just a minute, actually, and take all your calls as well, because lots of people getting in touch. And just a reminder that our WhatsApps are down this evening. Sorry about that. We are trying to get it fixed. If you want to get a message rather than a call, the calls, of course, usual number 0344 499 1000, but the Text messages are 87222 with the word talk in your text. Stay with us here on Talk.
Part of our fifth Prime Minister in 4 years. Blimey. And, well, look, we want him to succeed. But will this one be any different? Andy Burnham, the new head honcho. 1 minute he was Mayor of Greater Manchester. What, a month and a bit ago, he wasn't even an MP. The next, he's holding keys to number 10.
You know what? I'm trying so hard not to be cynical about it all, but I'm trying to keep, not hope. I'm sick of hearing about hope already. He's only been in government for 5 minutes, but I want them to succeed because I want Britain to succeed.
We're not supposed to flip and flop with every spirit of the age, every woke ideology or every passing fad and trend that comes about. We are supposed to be called out and separate, and the scriptures upon which the foundations and the continuing faith is based is a blueprint for that formation and the continuation of the church as a living entity in society. We are supposed to be a part of
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, thank you, everybody who has been in touch. There's plenty of people we will get on the calls in a second. Gary Mitchell has said, Peter, when the minimum wage was introduced in 1999, the rate for 18 to 20-year-olds was around 30% of the average wage. Now it is around 52% of the average wage. That's one of the reasons why employers are less inclined to hire young people. The wage differential between young people with little or no work experience versus more experienced older workers is just too small now to take a chance on those young workers. Well, Gary, that's a really, really good point. And we are in a situation where there are so many employers who are thinking, hold on a second, if I've got to pay roughly the same amount of money to someone who's 19 than someone who's 23, well, why then would I not take the 23-year-old? Why would I not take the person who has more experience, for example? Claire is in North Wales. In fact, Claire, I'll come to you in a second. I want to go to Stuart in London first because it's benefits that there are so many people getting in touch about. So I will come to Claire in a second. If you just hold on your horses a second. Stuart in London, 03444 499 1000. Stuart, what would you like to say? You're very welcome to the programme.
Well, it's always good speaking to you. I actually wrote to Farage and all of them about the benefit system, and it's a very easy system to sort out, I believe. What you do, there's all these people living on benefits, not working, not looking for work, and a lot of them have no intention of working ever. So what we do, 2 days a week, they must go to the job centre, looking for work, going for interviews. 4 days a week, they work for their benefits, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m.
And what should they do?
Everything he's doing, sweeping the streets, graffiti removal, fruit picking, working on farms, working on hospitals, whatever he's doing, it gets them in the habit of getting up in the morning and going to work instead of laying in their bed where they've been drinking all night or smoking whatever they smoke.
Do you know what I think, Stuart? There are so many small things like graffiti. It's a horrible thing when you see it. Graffiti being cleared up. Potholes, for example. I know it's not the world's easiest thing and it's expensive to fill in potholes, but I think there are a lot more people who could be trained to fill in potholes. If we filled in all the potholes in this country, the country would be so much better for drivers. 70% of people take the car to their work every single day, and not that you would know it from the London-centric media that bleed on about trains in the underground all the time. The fact is that there are small things that can be done. Litter, as you say, in an area, just an area clear of litter, an area clear of weeds, for example, a hedge that is cut back and looks, you know, that people are taking pride in their area. There are lots of ways people could be put to work, aren't there?
Well, of course there are. I mean, but my main thing is getting these people up out of their beds in the habit of working. Then they will be looking, they realise that they've got to work for their benefits. So it's liable to get them more in the habit of trying to get themselves a good job.
Okay.
And all these youngsters on these, everyone's got stress. Every kid has got ADHD. My friend said the other day, when we were young, we were naughty. Now we've got ADHD.
Well, Mariam doesn't. I mean, she's someone, I don't know if you saw her on earlier on, she's someone who's working 12 hours a week when she can, when she's doing her course. And then in the summertime, she's thinking, right, great, I'm going to work 40 hours a week and I'm going to work in that fast food place. There are grafters out there. She's one of them.
Oh, without a doubt. Well, I was training this kid, and he's turned up one day, and I said, what the hell was wrong with you? Oh, I've got diagnosed with ADHD, I'm on these drugs. I said, mate, get off them damn drugs. They've turned you into a zombie. And this kid, I said, do you have any problem with it? Did you also have? Oh, no, I get top marks and everything. Well, how have you got attention deficit syndrome when you get top marks and everything? He was as sharp as anything.
Mm-hmm.
And what they do, these doctors are getting money for diagnosing this stuff and doing the drugs. It's just a big racket. It is really...
Okay. Stuart, thanks for your points. I appreciate them. Claire in North Wales, thanks for being so patient. What would you like to say, Claire? I think this is about the Polanski Instagram. Should be said that some people are ringing us saying that his Instagram has been suspended. As far as we can see, anyway, we've checked it behind the top team behind the glass, has checked both his Twitter and his Instagram. They both appear to be still active. This is about sharing this image about someone talking about guillotining Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage very annoyed about it. The police are investigating. Claire, what's your thought on it?
Well, my husband has just checked his Twitter, and it is still out there.
Yeah.
It's still there. I've been out in work. I left the house at 8 o'clock this morning. I came in about an hour ago. So I've only just been catching up on the news, and I don't really... I'll text in now and again with my little pearls of wisdom or opinion, but I don't very often ring up. Now, this has really, really wound me up, that he has posted that, which is a threat to somebody's life, basically, and he's condoned it by sharing it. And it's only a couple of weeks since poor Anne Widdecombe got murdered. And also, if the shoe was on the other foot and Nigel Farage posted something like that, the police would be there feeling...
It'll be in the front page of every newspaper. It'll be in the front page of every newspaper. What do you think about what the Green Party have said? A Green Party spokesperson, don't know whether it's a man or woman, maybe they don't know either, after attending a public event, Zack accepted a request to collaborate on a post with several images. Once this image was brought to his attention, he immediately unshared the post. He unequivocally does not support this kind of dangerous message. So they admit it's a dangerous message.
He admitted it was a dangerous message, but who are his people that are looking at that stuff and sharing it on?
I don't know if they are. I don't know if he has a team. I don't know if there's anybody. But also, it's not just about the team. It's not just about the people who are vetting his social media. It seems as if he does it himself. And you've got to be able to stand over this stuff. You cannot be going around sharing things, tweeting about things that you're not in a position to say, yeah, I agree with that. I'm happy that I've done it.
If that was me or my husband and we shared something like that about the murder of some sort of political leader, regardless of what party they were from or whatever else, you could probably guarantee that we'd have somebody knocking on our door within like 24, 48 hours. Well, a bit like Lucy Connolly.
Well, the Metropolitan Police are still investigating, but clearly this has struck a chord, and I know what you mean, Claire, and I do think, people are saying, and Michael Crick said earlier on, I was overreacting. There are people saying that maybe it's a joke or it's not that big a deal. I do think it's a big deal, and I do think you've got, if this idiot wants to wear this T-shirt, okay, should we stop him? Should we stop him wearing the T-shirt? Well, maybe, but probably not. It's a stupid thing. If I saw someone wearing that T-shirt in the street, I'd think, what an idiot.
Yeah, I'm 100% for free speech, but there's got to be a line.
But it's also like judgment, though. It's judgment as well, Claire. Yeah. It's judgment of a senior politician putting something on social media which is dangerous to another politician. As you say, if Nigel Farage had put that on, saying we're preparing some idiot with a T-shirt saying we're preparing a guillotine for Zack Polanski, you would know that the left will be all over. It would be the front of every newspaper.
How that would play out. Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. And also, I'll just add, on the back of the call that you had just before me, I'm a benefits assessor.
Right.
So yeah, I know what goes on there.
So do you think a lot of people are swinging the lead, Claire?
100%.
So how do you get around that? How do you assess them and say, actually, you don't deserve this money?
Well, it's got to come from the top. It's got to come from the top because the parameters are so wide as to why people will get things like PIP, which is probably the main drain on the welfare system, and also the two-child cap. Sorry, I don't know why they ever changed that. That was like horrific.
So how do people? So how do people get around the system, Claire? What do they say? Do they just say, I've got anxiety, I've got ADHD, get it diagnosed by a friendly doctor? Like, what do they actually do to say, we're going to get this money? Because I just think, I mean, we had a young person on who works, 12 hours a week when she's in college, 40 hours a week when it's the summer holidays and people are off and she can get the shifts and things at the fast food restaurant that she works in. And, she's taking home less than what some of these people are having through benefits.
They get on benefits.
Yeah.
I know, it's horrific. So yeah, basically that's all they have to say. I've got anxiety, my mental health's really bad. I struggle to go out. That's all they have to go to the doctor and say, and they'll get signed off for that. And if they've got a family member or somebody else that can help them fill in their PIP application and say, yeah, they struggle with this, I have to help them with their medication, or I have to go round every day to make sure that they get up, or I don't know what they get them up for because they just sit at home. But, it's one of them. If they know the trigger words, I suppose, and they've got a family member or somebody that actually supports them within what they're saying, they don't do face-to-face assessments anymore. That's the other thing.
That's crazy. I mean, that is a crazy decision not to do face-to-face assessments, isn't it?
Yeah, because you could tell. I mean, my little brother has struggled with anxiety because of something that happened to him when he was younger, and he's been to a face-to-face assessment and spent half the time throwing up on the car park before he had to go in.
Right.
Because of his anxiety.
Yes.
But, so surely they would see stuff like that. But if people are just turning up and going, oh, I can't go out. And,
are there people...
I can't do this.
Claire, we're just coming up to the news, but just before you go, are there people losing out because they can't negotiate the system who deserve those benefits? Because I'm sure you're not and I'm not getting it. Anybody who's genuinely disabled genuinely needs money. I'm a taxpayer. I have no issue with people who are genuinely disabled getting that money. Are there people losing 100%. Out on this because they don't know the system?
My father-in-law had the COPD and he had to go to a face-to-face assessment before they stopped him. And because he could lift up an empty cardboard box, they said he was fit to work, but he couldn't walk up the stairs at home to get himself to the toilet.
That must really anger you, Claire. The system that you work in must really anger you.
Yeah, it does. It really does.
Okay, well, listen, thank you for talking to us on... Oh, no, don't... Claire, thanks for very much for all your thoughts there, and on every good wish to your brother as well.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thanks, Claire. That's Claire in North Wales there. Really interesting comments on just a couple of the stories we're talking about this evening. We're going to talk more about Berlin Pride, the attack calling for a clampdown. I'll get the security specialist Will Geddes' view on this Farage.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Just gone 9 o'clock, some breaking news. Armed police officers are to be deployed for the UK's biggest Pride festival. This comes after what happened in Berlin, the Berlin Pride attack, prompting calls for a clampdown. And I've just been handed some copy here from the Press Association saying that armed officers are going to be deployed for the UK's largest Pride festival. This is following the attack on Berlin's Pride event. The Defence Secretary Wes Streeting condemned the absolutely horrific van and stabbing attack in the German capital that left one person dead and injured at least 29 other people. Will get us his view on that, the security specialist, in just a second. I'll also ask him about this extraordinary Instagram share collaboration by Zack Polanski, the leader of the Green Party, about Nigel Farage. The police are investigating, calling for him to be killed with a guillotine. We're making plans for Nigel. We'll talk about prescribing, a trans group as well. Loads more to discuss on everything we're talking about today, including the Spanish Civil Guard rescuing and giving water to animals amid the dreadful wildfires that are happening there. Also, should drivers who run over a cat have to report it? Dominic Dyer thinks so, and so do I. We'll also be reflecting on the life of Bill Oddie, who Dominic Dyer, the Animal Welfare campaigner, we're going to talk to you a little bit later on about those other stories. He is someone who knew Bill Oddie very, very well. Lots to discuss, and a couple of slightly fewer ways this evening to discuss it because the WhatsApps aren't working, unfortunately, so we can't do voice notes, infuriatingly. But nonetheless, you can text me 87222 with the word talk in your text. You can give me a ring 0344 499 1000, or you can tweet me at Peter Cardwell. Follow me at Peter Cardwell as well. You can also tweet me at talkTV. And you can follow me on Instagram, actually, unlike Zack Polanski. I hopefully don't share things that are horrendous and horrible and talk about the death of politicians. On Instagram, I am at Cardwell Peter. Loads to discuss and some other breaking news about the Labour Party I'll bring you in just a second as well. So stay with us here on Talk. So the Labour Party news is that the Equalities Minister Bridget Phillipson has been appointed the chairwoman of Labour. She ran for deputy leader and lost out to Lucy Powell. The Prime Minister said Bridget Phillipson will help drive culture change in the party, ensuring Labour remains focused on delivering. It's disappeared on delivering for people. Sorry, I've lost the Bridget Phillipson on the screen here for some reason. Yes, it's come back now. The Prime Minister said Ms Phillipson will, she is Miss Phillipson, will help drive culture change in the party and ensure Labour remains focused on delivering for working people. Her role is going to involve preparing Labour for the next general election as chairwoman of Labour, including modernising the party for a new digital campaigning environment, ensuring it is the organisation, infrastructure and policy platform needed for success. She said the Prime Minister said she's delighted Bridget has accepted this role. Arguably, more importantly, armed police forces officers are to be deployed at the UK's biggest Pride festival. This is after the attack in Germany, which we're going to talk about in a second with the security expert Will Geddes. Wes Streeting has condemned the absolutely horrific van and stabbing attack in the German capital. It left one person dead and injured at least 29 others. Abdul Balat was the Islamist who did it. He is now dead. He had links to the Islamic State group. He was shot dead by police on Sunday after being on the run for nearly 24 hours. He was suspected of slamming a van into people gathered for the festival in the German capital, killing one person before stabbing others with a machete. Now, the UK's biggest Pride festival is due to take place in Brighton and Hove. It has about 500,000 people in it. And a spokesperson for Sussex Police said, as we look ahead to Brighton and Hove Pride, I want to reassure those attending, as well as residents, businesses and visitors across our city, that their safety remains our top priority. We will be working tirelessly and throughout the weekend, building on the extensive planning that has taken place over many months with event organisers, Brighton and Hove City Council and other partners to keep everyone safe and ensure an effective policing operation is in place. Uniform policing, plainclothes officers and specialist teams, including armed officers, will be deployed across the city, which all form part of our comprehensive plans for policing this event. The leader of Brighton and Hove Council, Bella Sankey, said in a post, we are deeply saddened by the attacks at Berlin Pride and our thoughts are with those affected. We stand in solidarity with the LGBTQI+ community, and as we look forward to Brighton and Hove Pride this weekend, we want to assure all those attending we'll be working closely with Brighton and Hove Pride, Sussex Police and other partners, keeping everyone safe. What I often don't see, Mr. Streeting suggested the attack in Berlin showed why pride events are still necessary. What I often don't see with people condemning this dreadful attack in Berlin is that it was the work of an Islamist. It was the work of someone who took their Muslim faith and decided that that Muslim faith said that gay people were to be mown down with a car, that they were to be stabbed, that they were to be killed. That is completely antithetical to the freedoms we have in this country and in the West. There are a lot of people, I'm sure, a lot of talk viewers and listeners who would not attend Pride events, don't particularly like Pride events, but they realise that in a free society they take place and they are there for people who are gay or lesbian or whatever to celebrate their identity. Instead, we have someone who hates our way of life, hates women showing their shoulders, showing their legs, hates women having jobs, hates anything that is to do with the freedoms we have, and the freedom to offend as well, and is using Islamism, is using bastardization of the Islamic faith to decide that violent action is necessary. Will Geddes, the security specialist, is with me now. Will, thank you for joining us. Are you surprised at this attack in Berlin? We've seen some like it previously. Just talk us through your view on it.
Well, evening, Peter. Thanks for having me on the show. Always. Well, this is the fifth car ramming incident that's happened in the last couple of years. So Germany has had its fair share of problems. Now, they can't all be attributed to terrorism, but there is a major issue over there. And one of those major issues is the fact that this individual, Abdul B, as he's being referred to, had been extradited from Lebanon, where he had tried to join Islamic State and had tried to cross the border from Lebanon into Syria. And I know from personal experience that is not an easy job to do. He'd been apprehended by Lebanese intelligence and then extradited back to Germany. Now, he then got sentenced for 18 months, I think it was, or approximately 2 years. But because he was being prosecuted under juvenile law in Germany, he was put on parole and told to attend a de-radicalization course, of which he'd only attended 2 before he then went on to carry out this attack.
It wasn't a roaring success, that course, let's face it.
Nope, certainly not. And again, this is one of the key issues, Peter, which is a constant that we're seeing time and time again. And again, he was not on the what they call the persons of interest list. Now, over in Germany, they have about 28,000, which sounds an awful lot, but not a great deal when you compare it to the United Kingdom, where we've got about 43,000. But the Germans, where they don't have their game together as well as they could, is that they don't have a central list. It's all sort of divided off into various different regions in Germany.
What do you think it says that here in the UK we're putting armed officers at pride parades? I mean, I've taken part in a pride parade previously in Belfast, and I mean, it was pretty harmless. It was just, you know, it was fine. I've been to one in London with a couple of friends. It's not exactly a hotbed of terrorism, and hopefully these things can be safe. But we're in a situation where armed officers are now needed because of what has happened in Berlin. I mean, people need to wake up and realise the threat from Islamism here.
Yeah, I think the vast majority of people do, Peter. I mean, certainly this is a great example of what Islamic extremism is all about. And, you know, the LGBTQ plus community are very much on their target list, which then plays very surprisingly when you see, in fact, a spokesperson at Berlin post this attack who said, I hope it was a white Christian male who carried out the attack.
I saw that.
His identity.
Astonishing.
So, you know, it is quite, people have got to shake their heads a little bit.
Well, these groups like Queers for Palestine who talk about how, you know, Hamas are these lovely people. Hamas want to kill you because you're gay. Hamas want to throw you off a building. Hamas want to shoot you. Hamas want to torture you and kill you because you're gay. And they don't just want to kill you because you're gay. They want to kill you because you're Western and because women have rights and women can do things that they can't do in the Palestinian territories or in various parts of the Arab world. I mean, this is really serious stuff. We've got to stand up for our values here. And it really worries me that the threat is so high.
Yeah, it does. And it worries me as well in the fact that we are being unable or disarmed from being able to protect our communities. And these communities that have integrated themselves, whether it be the LGBTQ plus community or whether it be women as a whole. You know, we're not defending people in our country from individuals without being slated as being Islamophobic. Now, it's bizarre and it's extreme. I mean, and I've got many Muslim friends. I actually had a Muslim girlfriend for a few years, and I've read the Quran, and I know that the Quran, yeah, people can subjectively look at certain parts of it and interpret it to be violent, but they could equally do so with the Bible. I'm a Christian myself. So what we've got is this extreme perverse group of individuals that our government is seemingly powerless to do anything about, or unwilling, I think, more to the point, to do anything about. And we've now had recently, I don't know whether you saw, Peter, a great piece done by the Telegraph, which actually determined and confirmed that Unit 700, or the 700 unit, which is part of the Al-Quds force within Iran, are now managing much of the illegal migrants coming into the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
And, and I've been saying this for years, Peter, those boats are not carrying just people. They're carrying contraband, they're carrying weapons, they're carrying all sorts of items which would, if used, have malicious intent.
I missed that particular article. I saw a little bit of the reporting. Would you WhatsApp me that article just so I can read it, just so I want to be informed on that properly? Can we talk about this trans group that people are talking about prescribing as well? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't know a great deal about that one, Peter, to be honest. I mean, this particular group that's prescribing, I talk about prescribing. I think one particular terrorist group that we should prescribe as a terrorist group, as have every other country virtually in the world, including most Arab nations, is the Muslim Brotherhood.
Yes.
This country seems to be wanting to permit to be able to carry on their operations. And there's quite recently an Iranian bookshop in the UK that is bringing over individuals on visas to work at the bookshop. Now, one would only hope they're only going to work at the bookshop.
Well, exactly. Yeah, just that story I was referencing. This is Lord Walney, John Woodcock, is saying that bash back deserves more serious attention after it published a guide on how to arm yourselves and carry out repeated illegal attacks on MPs. Ministers should consider prescribing a militant transgender activist group which has targeted the offices of MPs. Lord Walney said the conduct of bashback deserves far more attention than has so far received, and the minister should test it against the same threshold that led to the prescription of Palestine Action. We have another big controversy this evening.
The group that I've worked against, Peter, I've worked against Palestine Action on behalf of some of the targets that they've tried and focused on. And Palestine Action is a particularly horrible group, and this group is much the same. And we're constantly seeing these groups emerge or phoenix into new names.
Yes.
And I mean, I'm sure there are plenty of Palestine Action individuals who have simply just moved over to another group to carry out, again, malicious action.
Yes, it's not just old biddies sitting in T-shirts with Palestine Action on it, must be said. It's much more sinister than that. Interesting one, Will, just on political violence, because we have seen this sharing of an Instagram post by Zack Polanski, the leader of the Green Party. Let's see if we can just get it up on the screen there. This is on Instagram, and it's a guy wearing a T-shirt talking about making plans for Nigel Farage. The police are investigating it, the Metropolitan Police, and there's a guillotine there. What do you make of this controversy?
I think that Nigel Farage is perfectly within his rights to look at this and say, what is a leader of a recognised political group, whatever you might think of them. I obviously won't share my thoughts on it, Peter, but, endorsing something which is fundamentally coming down to criminality or actual physical harm against another MP. Another person that I'm sure you may have seen also was Kate Osborne, the MP for Labour, who also said that the Berlin attack was probably as a result of reform. I mean, all of these politicians at the moment, it's an absolute sham show.
Absolutely. Listen, thanks for your expertise. Really interesting to hear from you there. And please do WhatsApp me that article. I'd love to read it. We'll get us there. Security specialist, read that article on the way home just from the Telegraph there. There's so much to read and keep up to date with. And that's why it's great to do this show, because it forces you to be across all the news. Thank you as well to the texter who says, so let's get this straight. We have the leader of an extreme left-wing political party, Zack Polanski, his ambitions to be Prime Minister of this country, endorsing a T-shirt with a slogan on it it that says we have plans to execute the leader of another political party. And as if that is not bad enough, we get supporters of that extreme left-wing party calling into radio shows like yours, trying to excuse it. It's no wonder the Greens are bombing in the polls. Can anyone take this lot seriously anymore, says that texter. So thank you, and a reminder just to send the texts in 0344 499 1000. On the Berlin attack specifically, I want to speak to Timo Lehmann, who's a reporter for Der Spiegel. Timo, thank you for joining me, and I'm so sorry to see what has happened in Berlin. Can you just bring us up to date with what has happened?
So yeah, I mean, right now yesterday evening they got the suspect, so they shot him in a suburb of Berlin, and now the political discussion today started. The question is what happened and what can we learn for it that it's not happening again. So there are a lot of different ideas of what we could change. You also talked with the other security expert, for example, about our youth law and why this person was free at this moment, because he was already observed by the police. They had a camera in front of the house of this person. They knew everything where he was going. They know he was a risk, and still he was free. So the question is, how could this happen? And
yes. I mean, when it comes to a Pride parade, we in the UK have our biggest Pride parade in about a week's time, about 500,000 people. What kind of security is there? Because these kind of attacks, especially with a perpetrator using a car, have happened at a number of times across Europe. So when it comes to large gatherings, I mean, it's happened in Germany previously as well. When it comes to these large gatherings, how prepared are the police, and what do they try to do to keep Germans safe?
So I was there also privately, and I saw police everywhere. And also, you know, it was close to Brandenburger Tor, one of the main tourist sites in Berlin, very close to the National Parliament, not far away from the Bundeskanzleramt, where the Kanzler is located. It's one of the most secure areas in Berlin.
I know that area a little bit. I was there last year, actually. It's a beautiful area. There's so much history there as well. And yes, it is very secure. And I remember seeing lots of police there, even on a really normal, straightforward Thursday afternoon when I was there.
Exactly. So the thing is, like 10 years ago at the Christmas market at Breitscheidplatz, we had the same attack. We had a guy who was driving a car into a group of people, and there were bailouts. That's what they have now everywhere in Germany. They have these poles, you know, and they try to block every area with police cars. When there are festivals, the weekend before there was also a LGBTQ festival, a big one in Berlin. And there was also police everywhere. But with the Pride is the problem. It's going through the whole city. It's not one area that you can completely secure. It's a parade, right?
Yes.
The whole city.
Yes.
And with hundreds of thousands of people, it's the biggest event Berlin has every year. It's not only for the LGBTQ community, for all Berlin. As you know, it's a very liberal city. All Berliners are on the streets having a good time. There's music everywhere. How is it possible to secure this huge?
Yes. It's interesting here in the UK, we have UK politicians blaming this on the right wing, blaming this on Reform UK here. Is the same thing happening in Germany, or is Merz and the Chancellor and various other politicians, are they talking about this head on and saying, look, this guy was an Islamist, he hates our Western way of life? How are politicians reacting?
Yes, of course, there are some, as you just mentioned, also in Germany on the left side who don't want to talk about that it's an Islamist. And of course, also some right populist parties try to use it, instrumentalize it. The truth is there was also a protest against the Pride from right-wing actors. So, and there were also attacks recently in Germany from far right-wing people to the Pride. So in my opinion, extremists in all way are dangerous. Even if they come from the right, from the left, from Islamists, there are always a risk for minorities like the LGBTQ minority. And the politicians, the center politicians, center right, center left, they try to calm down the situation. They try to not use it. But we will see. We have elections here, local elections in Berlin, and also local elections in some eastern Germany areas where AfD, our Nigel Farage party, basically, is very, very strong. So we will see how this turns out at the end.
Okay, thank you, Timo. Very interesting to talk to you. Timo Lehmann there, who's a reporter at Der Spiegel. We will talk to you in just a second. Please lift the phone. Let me know your thoughts. 0344 499 1000. Whatever you think about everything we've discussed this evening. Plenty of time for calls between now and 10 o'clock. We'll also talk in a minute or two about whether you should report it to the police when you run over a cat. Hopefully it never happens. Hopefully you don't ever do it. We'll also talk about the wildfires and how people are reacting to that. Lots more calls though. 0344 499 1000. A reminder of the annoying news that that WhatsApp isn't working this evening, so if you do want to get a text message in, it's via the old school text messaging, 87222 with the word talk in your text, or you can tweet me, and during the break I'll have a quick look at the tweets as well. Loads to discuss, and we will do it in just a second. Stay with us.
Society.
Our fifth Prime Minister in 4 years. Blimey. And, well, look, we want him to succeed. But will this one be any different? Andy Burnham, the new head honcho. 1 minute he was Mayor of Greater Manchester. What, a month and a bit ago, he wasn't even an MP. The next, he's holding keys to number 10.
You know what? I'm trying so hard not to be cynical about it all, but I'm trying to keep, not hope. I'm sick of hearing about hope already. He's only been in government for 5 minutes, but I want them to succeed because I want Britain to succeed.
We're not supposed to flip and flop with every spirit of the age, every woke ideology or every passing fad and trend that comes about. We are supposed to be called out and separate, and the scriptures upon which the foundations and the continuing faith is based is a blueprint for that formation and the continuation of the church as a living entity in society. We are supposed to
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Thank you to everybody who has been in touch. I have been looking through your tweets and quite a number of people getting in touch. And a good one from Paulie, actually, who says, it seems like a good time to remind people that Zack Polanski recently went on the BBC and expressed his support at the police arresting Graham Linehan for posts on Twitter. Very interesting point, and thank you for it. Let's go to the phones. Polanski is the one that people want to talk about this evening. Louise is in Kent. 0344 499 1000 is the number she has called. Just a reminder, this is about an Instagram post that Zack Polanski shared of someone expressing a desire to put Nigel Farage in the guillotine. He's annoyed about it. The Metropolitan Police are investigating. Louise, what are your thoughts on this?
Hi, Peter.
Hi there.
We've spoken before about PIP and all sorts, and I would have lots to say about that as well. But I was speaking about this because something that's really distressing me, maybe because I don't know, I'm just extra sensitive or I'm growing old or whatever, I don't know. But I've got to the stage now where I find this hatred that comes from everywhere now. If you disagree with somebody, you actually hate them.
Yeah.
With such a visceral hatred.
Yes.
That it's quite nasty.
Louise, I say it all the time. We've got to learn how to disagree without being disagreeable.
Yeah,
Sorry, just 1 second, Louise, and I'll bring you back in, I promise. But just to make this point, I fundamentally disagree with what Michael Crick said earlier on in the programme. I think he's absolutely wrong. He's still a good guy. He's still my friend. I'll still very happily have him back in the programme. No issue with that.
Oh, I didn't hear what he said, actually, at that point.
He said we were overreacting to the Polanski thing.
OK. Well, what annoys me about it, I mean, that chap who rang up and said, oh, I don't know why you're getting so upset, it was a joke.
Yeah, Kevin.
Well, I'm sorry, but he didn't see what Lucy Connolly said was a joke.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, she didn't actually directly say kill somebody. So there was that bit. So, but why, whether it was a joke or not, it's a not appropriate joke when it's directed at somebody like that. That was awful. But how have we got to this situation where people feel that it's actually okay to behave like this? What's happened?
Well, I just question. There's so many things. You're absolutely right, Louise. I agree with every single word you've said. And I think we're at a stage where someone gets up in the morning and says, right, what am I going to wear? I'm going to wear that nice shirt. I'm going to wear that plain blue T-shirt. No, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to put on a T-shirt that says that I want Nigel Farage to be guillotined to death. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to walk around, I'm going to go about my daily business, and that is the decision I am making with that T-shirt. And then the leader of a major political party shares it. And even his own party says it's a dangerous message, and says he unequivocally does not support this type of dangerous message. He did, as far as I know, he hasn't apologised.
Actually, Peter, I would also say this also needs to go to the parties as well, because I want to stop them, each of them, every single one of them. Well, I'm not hearing the Tories do it quite so much, but Reform is guilty of this, running down all the other parties. I want to hear them not running down the other parties and saying what they all got wrong and 14 years. Talk about what you want to do instead.
Yeah.
Talk about what you want to do, not, oh, they were rubbish, they were 14 years of failure, everything else. Let's hear what you want to, and the day that Reform start doing it, I might consider.
I think that's a really good point. And, you know, Zia Youssef, for example, has called Conservatives traitors. I don't think that's a really good idea. I don't think that's constructive.
No worse than, no, that's just like Angela Rayner calling Tories scum.
Yeah,
this is disgusting.
I just think we need a better...
Let's hear about what you want to do, not running down everybody else's failures, because that won't get us anywhere. I have to say, I viewed the Tories and Reform a little bit like the tortoise and the hare, right? Mm-hmm. And I think there's some really good stuff coming out of the Tories now. In fact, I read a brilliant article the other day about how somebody was like, was it a Spectator, I think maybe, saying that he thought that, initially thought that Kemi was a stopgap. Mm-hmm. But he's really beginning to see her come through now. They're coming through some really...
I think I read that article as well, actually. Yeah.
It was fantastic.
Okay.
And it just goes to show she's a very deep thinker. And a lot of this last year, when they haven't said much, has been because they've been doing the research about what they can do, whether they could leave. I mean,
yes.
I think commissioned to see whether they could.
Well, it's really interesting you mentioned. It's really interesting you mentioned that about Kemi Badenoch. What you might want to do, Louise, after the programme, after 10 o'clock, you might want to look online, because I wrote something about Kemi Badenoch recently about how she will attack verbally anyway when it comes to Prime Minister's questions, and how she will oppose Andy Burnham and what her style will be. I wrote that for the I newspaper. Just Google my name and Kemi Badenoch, it should come up, and hopefully you'll be able to read it, Louise. I think you might find that interesting too. Great opinions, really interesting common sense there from Louise in Kent. Let's go to Marie in Barry, 0344 499 1000. Marie, you're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
Hi, Peter.
Hi there.
I'd just like to say I've just been listening throughout the day about obviously what Andy Burnham is trying to do with getting the youngsters off their, I don't know, ADHD, pissing, whatever. Yes. Okay. And obviously you mentioned not long ago, you said, why don't we get them filling potholes?
And that's something that I'd love them to do. I know you've got to be trained to do it. I know it's not the world's easiest thing.
Yeah.
But we definitely need more people filling potholes, do we not, Marie?
We do. My husband and my son are involved in working on the highways, doing this kind of job. It's not as simple as going, let's get these 16, 17-year-olds, let them fill potholes. My son, my husband, work on this. They're up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and they do go out. They get abused by people.
Why do they get abused by people if they're filling in potholes? Surely people are happy they're filling in potholes. That's a strange thing for those people to do, isn't it? Horrible.
Yeah, absolutely. But then, obviously, they might be employed by the council as subcontractors. They go, this is the bit you've got to fill. This is the tarmac you've got. Somebody comes out of their house and goes, can you fill my bit by here? And they go,
Right.
well, we can't.
That's not the job we've been given to do.
This is not the job we've been given. They work really, really hard.
Yep.
It's a lot harder than you think just to fill a pothole.
Oh, certainly. I'm not saying it's easy at all. I'm simply saying that it's something that needs to be done. I'm delighted your husband and son are doing it. I do think, Marie, if there was one political party in this country that said, you know what, we're going to fill every single pothole in the country, that's what we're going to do, I think they get my vote.
Absolutely, and mine too. They work really, really hard. My son is working for about £14 an hour, and he'll do 2 nights a week. He works from 6 o'clock in the morning. He'll come home at 4:30. 2 nights a week. He goes out back again at 6 o'clock, comes in at 10 or 11, and he's getting £14 an hour. And
he's working hard for his cash as well. It's not an easy job.
Yeah.
He's not just sitting there.
It's not an easy job.
Yeah.
Not an easy job.
Well,
and I think sometimes people, like, public should be mindful of the people who are filling in the potholes.
We've got to respect those people who, like your husband and your son. I'm delighted to hear that, and you've educated me, to be honest. I'm sorry if I was flippant or sort of saying, oh well, I absolutely wasn't saying anybody can do it. Of course, I couldn't do it, and you need a lot of training and expertise to do it. I'm just delighted that they're so dedicated and are clearly doing a really good job, Marie.
They absolutely, as you do as well, Peter. And I appreciate it. And all the people that you talk to, they're wonderful.
Well, you're very kind, Marie, as are you, and I really appreciate your call. That's Marie in Barry there. I really appreciate that. And thanks to everybody else who is calling in. We'll take many more calls between now and 10 o'clock, I promise. Anyone that changes their name like Polanski did has generally got something to hide and shouldn't be trusted. Leslie says this texter, another texter, Leslie says, how would a driver know who a cat they have hit to belongs to? If cats are allowed to roam freely, it's the owner's fault if they're run over. I'm sick of my neighbour's cat using my garden as a toilet, says Leslie. Well, cats now mandatorily, it is the law to microchip them. So you should hopefully be able to get a vet or someone to scan who the cat is and who the owner of the cat is. In fact, I remember when I moved house, I moved to my flat with Jack, I went online and went to the company and had to change the address from our old address to our new address, and the company that has Jack's details is called Pet Track. And I tweeted them and said, when you come into work in the morning, do you sing Pet Track, Pet Track, Pet Track to where you once belonged, given that they're reuniting cats with their owners? They replied and said, we do now. We'll talk about cats and many other animals with Dominic Dyer as well, including what people are doing about the wildfires. Stay with us.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Thank you to everybody who has been in touch, including Richard, who says, please correct Russell. The funeral directors industry is totally corrupt. It is one of the few industries that goes totally unregulated. You or I could set up a funeral director's business tomorrow. I'm the son of a monumental mason. My father had a lot of contact with funeral directors and they sent a lot of work his way. My mother, who is now passed, told me a true story. It goes, a very respected funeral director called her into his office once and showed her inside a locked drawer as he joked and laughed. It was full of to the top with gold and silver jewellery, mostly rings. She was horrified but bound not to say anything. as the director sent a lot of work their way. This was in the 70s, and that director is still one of the biggest in the country. Well, that's absolutely horrifying. Richard, you need to have confidence, especially when when the worst thing happens, a very close relative dies. I've experienced grief twice in my life, and I know I wasn't thinking clearly at each time, and I know that certainly if I had to make decisions about those sorts of things, I didn't in either of those cases, but if I had, it would have been probably not necessarily the best decisions I would have made because I've been distracted. Bridget Phillipson has tweeted that she's honoured to become chairwoman of the Labour Party. I joined our party as a teenager, she says, and saw firsthand the difference a Labour government makes. I'll work with members to build the election-winning machine that sees off reform for good and secures a second Labour term. Right then, I want to talk about a couple of stories. One of them is the animal welfare aspect of these wildfires in southern Europe. There are many humans, of course, who are having an absolutely dreadful time. They are evacuated from there are many towns and cities that have been evacuated. There are many animals as well who have had to be rescued from those wildfires. The indefatigable animal welfare campaigner, great man, Dominic Dyer, is with me now. Dominic, can you just tell me a few of the stories of how people have been helping?
Yeah, I think, these fires are unprecedented, aren't they? If you look at what's happening in Spain, Italy and France, there's huge parts of the country with fires that are becoming very difficult to control, encroaching on significant urban areas, particularly in Bordeaux in France at the moment. Hundreds of thousands of people are being evacuated. I think the first thing that happens in a situation like this is that people are often told to leave and have to leave animals behind, which is a terrible thing to do. Or in some cases, we've seen people go back for animals and then actually be killed as a result of trying to save them. That's happened to a number of people in Spain in recent days, including some UK expats that have been living there as well in a tragic incident in the mountains. But there's also been some amazing bravery we've seen from the Civil Guard units that are active in France and Spain, but also from the fire people on the ground, many of whom are risking their lives, and some have been killed, doing incredible things to help, dogs and cats to escape and to be protected, and wild animals they come across as well. But we've seen horses having to be released, in different areas to sort of fend for themselves. The images are very stark. This is a disaster unprecedented, but it's something that we're all going to have to get more used to because climate change is causing these significant problems and risks. The final thing I would say is that we've seen some horrible stories emerge from Italy where the Italian authorities believe that in some cases there's arsonists have been tying, rags with petrol and setting light to them on the back of cats and sending the cats into areas to spread fire. That's just horrendous.
That's deranged behaviour, absolutely unspeakable cruelty there, and just so awful for everybody. It is just, the human mind boggles sometimes. Dominic, calls to introduce a significant change to legislation affecting all cat owners and motorists have taken a major step forward. This is a petition on the parliamentary website. It's got to be considered for debate by MPs, and it's going to, we've got 113,000 people calling for all drivers to be legally required to report accidents involving cats. It is the case with dogs, if I remember correctly.
It is the case with dogs, yes. And also, actually, foxes and other large animals, badgers and things that you might kill as well in terms of knocking down on the road, and deer. But with cats, it isn't. And it doesn't make any sense, particularly as you've already said. You now have regulations in place to ensure that you have microchips for both dogs and cats. The cats provision was only brought in about 2 years ago. But basically now we should be able to trace all cats to the owners. So if a cat is knocked down, it needs to be reported. The individual owner needs to be told. It's obviously very upsetting to understand that your cat's been knocked down. But at the moment, cats being left or local authorities picking them up, no one reporting the fact that they've been killed. It's a horrendous situation. It doesn't need to happen. The public wants to see a change here. I think the petition is a significant one. And I hope that actually in this instance, politicians will move quite quickly and make this mandatory in terms of saying that people need to report it.
And there's a lot of, 230,000 cats are struck by vehicles annually, 630 daily. 35% of drivers admit to having hit a cat, and of course there are 12.2 million cats, making them the second most popular pet in the country. 27% of homes have at least one feline. But as you say, under Section 170 of the Road Traffic Act 1988, drivers are legally required to stop and report accidents involving horses, cattle, donkeys, mules, sheep, pigs, goats and dogs, but not cats. The distinction was made to protect working animals, but the law could be updated very, very quickly and straightforwardly, couldn't it?
Yes, it could, and this is something that should be done because it just causes a huge amount of unnecessary distress. And the fact that you've now got those mandatory microchip systems in place and you can trace owners, this shouldn't be a problem at all.
Okay. Just before you go, I know that Bill Oddie, who was a great comedian, a great comic performer, but also probably best known by my generation as a great animal lover, great naturist, Spring Watch and so many other programmes that he was part of, he was a friend of yours.
He was a good friend of mine, yeah.
I'm so sorry to hear about his death today, Dominic.
He's been a major figure in my life, really. When I started at the Badger Trust, he came on board to help us campaign against the badger cull. He was very active against fox hunting and wildlife crime. I worked on a number of campaigns with him. He supported me when I wrote my first book about badgers and took it across the country. And, you know, I mentioned in a piece I put out today about him is that in 2017, we organised a massive protest march to Downing Street against fox hunting. And it brought over 20,000 people together. But a week before it was going to happen, we had the terrible terrorist attacks in Manchester at the Ariana Grande concert. And there was a sort of huge pullback, and the police were concerned about the size of the demonstration during election campaign. And a lot of the high-profile speakers we had lined up all pulled out. But Bill stuck with it. The police then said, we'll do it. And they provided armed police on the march. There were soldiers at Downing Street. It was unprecedented security, but it was an amazing event, and Bill fronted it, and it just really made a huge impact during that campaign. And, you know, that's just Bill for me. That was really how important he was, why he stood up for what he believed. Unprecedented, brave, courageous, believed in justice for animals and people, a brilliant comedian, of course, and will be really, really sadly missed.
Thank you very much, Dominic, and condolences to you as well. You've lost a friend, and I know that it is very tough when that happens, and thank you for joining us this evening to pay tribute to him and on the other stories as well. Thank you very much about the campaigner, the comedian and the naturalist, Bill Oddie there, so lots to remember there, and thank you to Dominic, who really properly knew him and paid a wonderful tribute to the naturalist Bill Oddie. Lots to discuss after the break. Stay with us here on Talk, and do get your call in 0344 499 1000.
A part.
Our fifth Prime Minister in 4 years. Blimey. And, well, look, we want him to succeed. But will this one be any different? Andy Burnham, the new head honcho. 1 minute he was Mayor of Greater Manchester. What, a month and a bit ago, he wasn't even an MP. The next, he's holding keys to number 10.
You know what? I'm trying so hard not to be cynical about it all, but I'm trying to keep, not hope. I'm sick of hearing about hope already. He's only been in government for 5 minutes, but I want them to succeed because I want Britain to succeed.
We're not supposed to flip and flop with every spirit of the age, every woke ideology or every passing fad and trend that comes about. We are supposed to be called out and separate, and the scriptures upon which the foundations and the continuing faith is based is a blueprint for that formation and the continuation of the church as a living entity in society. We are supposed
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Thank you to everybody who has been in touch. Let's go to Andrea, who is in Essex. She's given me a ring on 0344 499 1000. Andrea, you're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
Hello there. Lovely to speak to you, Peter.
You too, Andrea.
I just wanted to, I have this imprinted in my brain from doing some law training about 40 years ago, Peter, that I think the definition of a road traffic accident in terms of reporting animals, it includes horse, mule, cattle, ass, goat, sheep, pig, dog.
Yes.
And that is...
It was about working animals, wasn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly that, Peter. So they gave us wool, or they gave us milk, or they pulled farm equipment, didn't they? Dogs chased game, you know. It was all of those, dare I say, useful animals, and I mean that in inverted commas.
No, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. And you can see why the law was made in that way, because they were to many people an asset. They were something that helped people make money. And, you know, there still are working animals. They're still there, of course. But when it comes to, you know, if something awful does happen, and I don't even want to think about it when it comes to my own cat, who's terrified of cars and runs a mile as soon as he even hears one, which is fantastic. I don't want him to be terrified, but I'm very happy he runs completely, very quickly in the opposite direction when he even hears one of the electric cars. And we live near-ish a road, not he's plenty of space, but I mean, it's horrible. It's awful when it happens. I had a cat when I was a kid who died and was knocked over in the road. Thankfully, we found her and were able to give her a good burial and a good send-off and all the rest of it, and I missed her very much and was very sad. But, I mean, it does seem as if something that's almost common courtesy as well. You know, I don't think there'd be too many people who, they'd feel very sad, of course, but they wouldn't necessarily blame the driver. There's nobody, hopefully very few people, or if anybody, who want to kill a cat or a dog or anything else. And just to have that information would be of some comfort, wouldn't it? Rather than just thinking, my cat's disappeared, don't know where it is.
Oh, by the way, I couldn't agree more. I'm fully on board with you there, Peter, but I just think it's a fairly old law. And it was when times were perhaps a little bit harder and they included animals that weren't like just pets, like a rabbit or a cat or whatever it might be. It was all about the practical side of life and what produced, what helped, that kind of thing. What we haven't caught up with is how much our animals do help us in lots of other ways.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and thank you for that, Andrea. Really interesting insight there. Appreciate that. Let's go to Keith in Huddersfield, who wants to talk about Zack Polanski and this Instagram post. Keith, what would you like to say about that?
It's regarding the hate crimes. I feel that it's going to carry on. And we've got to go back to where it started. It started when Labour was in opposition, when you had prominent politicians calling Conservative scum. You've got in what were Deputy Prime Minister ripping into people, right? You've got your Prime Minister, who were at question time, attacking women and having to apologise later for it.
Do you not think that really visceral type of politics has been around for a long time? Can we blame one party for it?
I think it started probably maybe 5 or 6 years ago, but it's gradually got worse. And until we can solve that problem in Parliament, right, you're always going to get these fringes coming out and justifying what they're doing. Unless you solve it in Parliament first, we're not going to get to the bottom of it. That's my honest opinion. The Labour Party, there's 3 or 4 on that front bench that have ripped into people, especially Nigel Farage. There's only about 4 or 5 of them. He gets up to make a statement and straight away they go into the attack. That is not Parliament, how it should be conducted itself. You know, they're representing all this country. And when you look at that, you're shaking your head.
Yeah, it's just very sad that we're at that stage in our country where people feel they can say things. And listen, you know, Zack Polanski, I really strongly disagree with him. I don't know why he just hasn't apologised this evening. There are Reform UK politicians, Yusuf, called Conservatives traitors. I don't think he should do that.
I'm going to tell you something now, Peter, right? You can apologise someday, and it means nothing. Or you can apologise from the heart, which does. You don't know what it is. They keep asking for apologies all over Parliament, right? And it doesn't mean anything. They're just trying to get this edge over you. Is apologise, right? Yeah. You can apologise to anything. I once had to apologise at a golf club for saying something about our captain. And what I said was, I'd like to apologise if I've offended anybody.
That's a bit of a boyfriend apology, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you don't.
You didn't really mean that, did you?
I didn't want to get banned from club.
Right.
You know,
okay.
I had to do it.
Yes.
Right. But what I'm saying is, there's two ways you can apologise. You can apologise and generally mean it, or you just apologise to pacify people, and that's what's happening in Parliament.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you very much, Keith. Interesting thoughts there, and I'm afraid we've all issued apologies we perhaps haven't meant in our heart. But I always find far better to apologise and to just get it over with and not be proud. And, you know, if you make a mistake, say it. I actually made a mistake in the last section, believe it or not. And, I mean, Bill Oddie has died, so I want to be really careful and want to be very sensitive about that. But I called him a naturist rather than naturalist, which, as errors go on air, I think Bill Oddie would have perhaps laughed at that one. I hope he would have anyway. Joan is in Sunderland and has given me a ring on 0344 499 1000. Joan, you're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
Hello. I was totally disgusted by the picture I saw of that man in the T-shirt.
Yes.
I think it's totally unacceptable, and I'm sorry, but I didn't agree with your guest at all.
That's okay. You don't need to apologise, Joan. What did you disagree with? That do you mean Michael Crick earlier on?
Yes, I didn't agree with what he said about. Really, he was more or less saying people wouldn't take that seriously.
Yeah.
But
do you worry people do take it seriously, Joan? Because I do.
Yes, and as I say, I'm totally disgusted with Zack Polanski and how this was brought about, especially as it's just so soon after the horrific murder of Anne Widdecombe. I think that's terrible. And that woman, that Labour MP, I think she's out of order as well. How Reform can be to blame for that incident in Germany.
Well, I just think, I mean, that's Kate Osborne MP, Labour MP. It's really interesting, Joan, isn't it, that some people just immediately jump to blaming their political opponents. You say, well, it's obviously a Nigel Farage. Well, no, it's an Islamist. It's someone who wouldn't agree with anything Reform UK says, someone who is an Islamist, someone who who hates gay people because they're gay, hates people because they're, you know, in Western society and they're doing Western things.
I know. I mean, the picture that looked back at me wasn't Nigel Farage.
Yeah.
They got the person who actually caused all that mayhem.
Yes.
But these politicians, they just. The language is serious. I know I criticise people, and sometimes
you're not nasty, Joan. You're not a nasty person. You criticise people constructively. You do it in a reasonable way. You give us a ring and you tell us your opinion, and that's great. That's the sign of someone who's got opinions and wants to express them, and that's where you're very, very welcome in this station anytime, Joan.
But as I say, this Zack Polanski, I don't particularly care for the man, and I don't care for some of his policies, but that's the end of it.
Yes.
There's no way I would go on and say because I don't like him and I don't like his policies that he has to die.
Of course.
No way at all. It's just not acceptable, and I cannot understand how this country has descended into so much hate. Disagreement doesn't mean the death sentence or, you know, for someone because they don't agree with you. It's just all wrong. It's crazy. No wonder universities, I mean, that's where some of this is coming from because debate is not, it's frowned on. You either have to agree with them or that's it.
Joan, listen, thank you. I agree with you. I think you've made some really, really good points. Let's get a final call before we speak to Petri Hoskin about what's coming up on her programme. Mark's in Lincolnshire. Mark, what would you like to say? You're very welcome to the programme.
Hi there, Peter. Yeah, really quick things. Firstly, I'm not going to take any lectures from Farage and Reform on dangerous language when they've still yet to apologise for Layla Cunningham lying about Charlie Downs and Restore members when she said, and I quote, I mean, they're talking about if you're not white and Christian in this country, you're not British. They're going back to some kind of like neo-Nazi Aryan race thing. From that point on, Peter, the amount of abuse I got from reform supporters was ridiculous. And I still get it to this day, by the way. I had a nice one at the weekend from a reform supporter calling me a Christian masquerading, a neo-Nazi masquerading as a Christian.
Well, none of that's true, Mark. And I do think, Reform has a role to play in this. And I've mentioned the use of calling Conservative MPs traitors, for example. I just don't think the use of that word traitor is a wise word to use. How can we lower the temperature, Mark? How can we disagree agreeably?
Well, start behaving like bloody adults for a start. Have a free and open conversation. Doesn't mean you have to hate people. I mean, I take the mickey out of people, like John was saying, and stuff like that. Of course, that's just part of the banter of politics. But when you're just essentially making stuff up, when you're trying to portray somebody like they're the devil incarnate, that's dangerous. Because see, this is the reason I don't have my name out on X. Because I do, as you know, I post on X and I say quite a lot of stuff that a lot of people wouldn't like me, don't want me to say, basically. But it's what I want to say, and it's nothing illegal. But the reason I don't is because there's too many people, especially on the left, but seemingly also in Reform as well, and I guess in Restore as well. There'll be similar people that, quite frankly, have got mental illnesses and are quite happy to do something about this kind of stuff. But very quickly, if I may finish on Peter, completely off topic, I'm afraid. Something I've seen tonight, which should terrify all of us, while we're faffing about on a 3% budget for the defence, just watch a video of Chinese soldiers training, clearing a house, right? Only the lead trooper clearing this house was a bloody robot.
I mean, wonders never cease. We're talking about AI, people interviewing people for jobs as well earlier on in the show. Mark, there we must leave it because Petri Hoskin is in the studio. Petri, I'm just going to read two quick messages here.
Okay.
One is from Alex, who says, "Great show, Peter and team. I'm not feeling great off to bed. Great show. Let's hope we can live in a world where we can disagree but still be agreeable. Good night, Alex. Hope you're feeling better soon." And I think you'll enjoy this one from George in Enfield, who says, "You describe Bill Oddie as a great naturist." I think you meant naturalist. Otherwise, there is hope for us all, says George.
Yeah, I'm
Enfield.
not sure I would want to see Bill Oddie as a
There's a joke to be made about great tits, but
Yeah.
I'm not going to make it.
Let's not make it.
Let's
not stoop to that.
I think Bill Oddie would probably be amused by that, which is a good on the day that he has very sadly left us.
Yeah, the goodies were amazing. I loved the goodies.
It was great, yeah. What's coming up on your show?
The goodies on my show, adult social care. And that's going to be the midnight as well. What are we happy with the death